Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it is my tremendous pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but throughout the world, but also to welcome to the program 4 attractive and talented players of this game. I mean, who can resist the spontaneous humour and brilliant repartee of Paul Merton? Who can resist the charm and personality of Liza Tarbuck? Who can resist the wit and clever enunciations and observations of Hesketh-Harvey? And who can resist the engaging personality of that fine actor, Charles Collingwood? Would you please welcome all 4 of them? As usual, I am going to ask them to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Susie Best, who's going to help me keep the score, and she will blow a whistle when the 60 seconds are up. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the City Varieties, that wonderful theatre in the heart of that fine city of Leeds. And as you can hear, we have a fine, tuned-up Yorkshire audience in front of us, ready to cheer us on our way. Let's begin the show with Paul Merton, and who better? Oh, Paul, a very apt subject to start with, music hall. Because this theatre is one of the most famous music hall theatres in the country, and it's still going strong. But the subject is music hall, Paul, and you start now.
Well, as Nicholas just said, the City Varieties Leeds is one of the oldest theatres in the country. If you look back through the record books, you will see that Charlie Chaplin appeared in here in 1896 in an act called The Eight Lancaster... Sorry about that.
Liza Tarbuck, you challenge.
It's stumbling, wasn't it?
Yes,
I leapt in.
So you leapt in, and we call that hesitation,
Hesitation,
right?
of course.
So, Lisa, you have a point for a correct challenge. You take over the subject of music hall, and there are 47 seconds available starting now.
When I was young, I made my name by appearing in various musical acts. The first one was me in a barrel as a strong man. I'd lie very low in the barrel, and I'd...
Kit has challenged.
So sorry, it's barrel.
Thank the
You
Lord.
repeated your barrel. You
Is
had
that
too
all
much
right?
of the barrel there. Right.
Roll out those barrels.
So we're going to hear from 3 of them on this first round on the subject of music hall. Perhaps I should explain to my listeners that frissons of laughter that occurred then, because only 3 of them are here at the moment. Charles Collingwood, who works in another show on Radio 4 called The Archers, has left his production in Birmingham to come up here to Leeds, and unfortunately the traffic's so bad, he's on his way. We hope he'll be here before we finish. But Kit, you had a correct challenge. You get a point for that. You have 36 seconds. Tell us something about music hall, starting now.
I was overjoyed to discover I had an ancestress who worked this very hall. She was called Kitty Brewster and divinely taught Queen Victoria to play the ukulele. This is true. It's a glorious image if you sit and think of them at Osborne House strumming away together. She had a troupe of 6 girls and was caught behind enemy lines before the Great War, and using only her instruments and her wiles managed to make it back to a heroine's welcome here in these British shores. And what joy and rapture there was. I'm not quite sure what her wiles were, but they...
Yes, you deserve that round of applause. But Paul got in, I know what on the repetition, yes.
Repetition of wiles.
Wiles, yes. And there are 6 seconds, Paul, on music hall with you again, starting now.
The good old days was a television programme transmitted from this very theatre, and Leonard Sachs, the chairman, used to stand up and say, "Where's Charles Collingwood?"
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion was Paul Merton, so he's got that extra one. And, at the end of the round, let me tell you, well, you can imagine what the situation is. Paul's got 2 and the other 2 have got 1 each, so that's fine.
What about Charles?
Charles Collingwood... Charles Collingwood is yet to score. He's due to start the next round as well. Someone in the front said hesitation.
Should we not just give Charles his subject and see what happens?
All right, then, right, Paul. Very good idea, right. So, Charles Collingwood, would you take the next one? And, Charles, the subject is a slippery slope. Would you talk for 60 seconds on that subject, starting now? Kit, you've challenged.
Repetition.
What?
Because he didn't say anything last time.
He hasn't had a chance yet.
I think that was a harsh challenge, Nicholas. I think we should give Charles another go.
Yes, I think
Give him a point. Give the man a point.
No, I know. That wasn't a repetition, definitely. So, Charles, there are, with only 1 second to go, Charles, there are still 59 seconds available on the slippery slope starting now. Lisa, you've challenged.
Deviation.
Why?
He's not paying attention.
You can carry on with this game and not pay attention. It doesn't matter. He's got another point. Charles has got another point. That's 2 points. And on for the first challenge. 2 incorrect challenges so far. Charles Collingwood, a slippery slope still with you, and 57 seconds starting now. Paul, you've challenged.
Repetition of zoological gardens. No, I'm sorry, I panicked.
I don't know why. You've all been playing the game for a long time. You could have had him for hesitation, but nobody's bothered. That's right. So,
well, who knows? He might make the same mistake.
So that's another point to Charles, because that's an incorrect challenge. 56 seconds, still with you, Charles. A slippery slope starting now. Yes, Lisa.
Hesitation.
So, Lisa, you have a correct challenge, and you've got the subject of slippery slope with you, and there are 56 seconds starting now.
The slipperiest slope I've ever been on was a skiing ridge in Austria, in the town of Obergurgl. Let me tell you straight away, I'm not very good at skiing. I started life at the back of the row of skiers, and then I ended up at the front, at a precipice at one point, which was quite worrying. I did have tonsillitis, and I was always much better after 2 glasses of Glühwein, but then isn't everybody? I'd get down to the ski lodge about 1 o'clock, meet my mum and my brother, who was calling himself rather wittily a snowcat, and mock him for hours and long. Where did it come from?
It's an impossible game. So, Kit, what was your challenge?
Well, it was hesitation, I think.
It was hesitation, because she couldn't resist saying hours again. So, Kit, you got in. Another point to you. Slippery slopes with you. 22 seconds starting now.
The most slippery slope is the vertiginous rake here on the stage at the City Varieties Leeds, but I once went down the flumes at Centre Parks in Thetford, which was like having a high colonic irrigation. It was just astonishing. By the time I got to the bottom in the tangle of naked limbs with people from Dagenham, I was so cleansed and purified, I rejoiced at the thrill of it all.
Paul, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, yes. And you've got him with 1 second.
Oh, you pig.
And after the way he went so magnificently on his slippery slope. 1 second on slippery slope, Paul, starting now.
The slippery slope.
Paul Merton got the point for speaking then as the whistle went, and he's moved forward. And, Kit, it's your turn to begin. The subject is my favourite pudding. That's a lovely subject. Talk on it. 60 seconds if you can, starting now.
What can I say here in the City Varieties Leeds? But my favourite pudding is, of course, Yorkshire. What a prince of dishes that is. Curiously enough, there was a competition held in this very city to try and find who could make the best of these puddings. It was won by a Chinaman, pleasingly called Mr. Tin, and his secret recipe was supposed to involve lick sauce. That turned out to be a Cantonese joke, but what he did was to put the flour and the salt into the eggs rather than the other way round, which more conventionally is used, which you make a
Lisa, you challenge.
Do you know what? It was repetition of city. Excuse me, who's this?
No.
Hello, love. You're doing very well. You're second.
It's all right, I'm up to my knees in slurry, guys.
Right. It's all right, Charles. You made a magnificent entrance, but please don't milk it. Right. Someone challenged on...
I challenged
cities.
for repetition of city.
Yes, I think you're right.
Although it was hesitation.
Well,
Does that mean I get 2 points?
No, darling, you only get 1. I'm sorry. You only have 1 hesitation. But anyway, you've got 1 point for a correct challenge, and you take over. It's my favourite pudding, by the way, Charles. 26 seconds on my favourite pudding, starting now.
I'm a savouries girl at the end of the day. However, occasionally I like 2 scoops of ice cream. I'll go 1 chocolate and una vanilla, if you're talking in Spain, because that is where I would normally have my pudding. I mean well.
I'm sorry, she hesitated as well. It was actually repetition of the 2 scoops, but I
she
think
got
that was
out of it so well with her Italiano, but
2 scoops.
Kit, you got in with a hesitation, 13 seconds available. Another point to you, of course, my favourite pudding starting now.
And it billows up like a cushion, crisp and golden, and in you tuck. You can put maple syrup into it.
Paul, challenge.
Are cushions normally crisp and golden?
Have you seen Nicholas's?
I think it's deviation. Cushions are never crisp.
you're not.
By nature, they're soft and giving and
That's
yielding,
right,
aren't they?
yes.
Never crisp. You've never sat on a crisp cushion, have you, Nicholas?
I have.
You look as if, I bet you haven't.
I have, but it was... But I soon shot up because I knew it wasn't a proper cushion.
Exactly.
They may look crisp and golden, but they are soft and giving, as you said, Paul.
Indeed.
So you have a correct challenge of deviation. And you have 6 seconds on my favourite pudding starting now.
Undoubtedly, the best pudding I ever ate was at the Festival of Britain in 1951.
So at the end of that round, Paul again was speaking as the whistle went and has increased his lead over the others. But it's very interesting. Charles Collingwood, who's yet to speak, is still in second place. And, right, Lisa, it's your turn to begin.
There we go.
Lisa, the subject now is daytime television. You have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
As a rule, daytime television goes straight through from 6 a.m. in the morning to 6 a.m. the following morning. Slippery old chap.
Paul, you
Repetition
challenge.
of 6 a.m.
You're
Yes.
absolutely right.
6 anyway. Paul, you've got him with 54 seconds to go on. Daytime television starting now.
When I was growing up, there wasn't much daytime television. Of course, you have a great deal of it now. There starts, as Lisa said, round about the early hours of the morning, and daytime television, by definition, I suppose, finishes when it gets dark, although the actual medium continues. But it's an all load of rubbish, isn't it? I've painted my house blue, you've done yours red.
Kit, you challenge.
Sorry, hesitation there.
I wouldn't call that a slight hesitation, but enough to give you the subject.
cruel, I'm sorry.
And
No,
that's fine.
No, 35 seconds on. Daytime television, Kit, 35 seconds starting now.
Daytime television.
And,
Well, I thought there was a hesitation there.
Evil.
You're playing the game with great panache, Paul, but it was incorrect. And Kit's got another point. 34 and a half seconds. Daytime television starting now.
I don't think daytime television is in the least boring when you see fragrant Hannah Gordon wafting through her watercolour challenge, or even the craggy old majestic magnificence that is Michael Parkinson, a Yorkshireman, on his antiques programme, which I used to share with the divine Penny Smith, irresistibly sexy and sensual as we adjudged old pieces handed to us by Eric Knowles. Going for a snog, I hoped to call it, but it never got that far. There's also Call My Bluff, with ripping little Sandy Toxvig punching Alan Corrin in the kneecaps. And...
So Kit Hesketh-Harvey, making the subject interesting and going into the whistle wind, gained an extra point. And at the end of that round, he not only got that extra point, he is only one behind our leader, Paul Merton. Charles, your turn to legitimately start. The subject is Bookworm, starting now.
The only time I could legitimately be called a bookworm is when I'm on holiday and I have time to lie by the side of that mezzanine pool with a pile of gorgeous books that I've meant to read for many a year, but because of the busy life
Kit has
So
challenged.
we're having trouble over here with mezzanine pool. Isn't that deviation? I mean, wouldn't the whole thing just sort of flow down the stairs?
You have another point, Kit, and you have 46 seconds on Bookworm starting now.
There's a famous brain teaser about a bookworm. You have to imagine it chomping through 3,000-page encyclopedias on a shelf from A to Z. How many pages does it eat? Oh, bother.
Use the challenge.
Pages.
No, it's Page the first time.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
Oh, you are alert, Nicholas,
I have
aren't
to be.
you?
My job.
Surprise me then, Mrs. Parsons.
So it was a single and a plural.
I think she's coming on to you, Nicholas.
Well, with her new dark hair, I'm absolutely tempted. The an incorrect challenge, so another point to you, Kit. And how many seconds? 35 seconds on Bookworm starting now.
From A to Z, how many does... or did I
Paul
start that
Jones.
before? I'm sorry.
We had from 8 to
I'm sorry, I was
You
picking
did,
up where I
yes,
left off.
Right.
No,
So now you have it, Paul, and 34 seconds Bookworm starting now.
Well, it's a derogatory term, but it shouldn't be, because to read books is the path to a good education. Those variety acts that used to fill this theatre back in the 19th century, they didn't read books, but they would have done if they'd had the opportunity.
Charles, challenge.
Two reads.
Yes, you read books, yes, read. They did what it could, yes, they could read if
Oh,
they
it's
could.
tricky when the subject's bookworm,
Yes.
isn't it? Yes. Ooh.
22 seconds with you, Charles.
Clever,
now.
Nicholas.
Or back with you, Bookworm, starting now.
Lying on the sandy beach.
Would you? That was hesitation.
Don't be so silly, Paul.
Yes, absolutely. You could have parked a bus in that, or driven from Birmingham. Huge gap. Massive gap there.
A man of impeccable timing.
No, he was only trying to get back to you about the unsporting challenge. But I'm always fair. It wasn't hesitation. So, Charles, you've got another point. You have the subject. 21 seconds. Bookworm starting now.
It takes a long time to read an enormous amount of books and to become a bookworm. I'm glad I'm not married to a bookworm, otherwise nothing in the house would ever get done.
Lisa challenge.
I had to come in on hesitation, but
You do?
also just for the sake of females everywhere.
And you have 9 seconds to tell us something about Bookworm starting now.
This summer, I read for the first time Philip Pullman's trilogy about the little girl Lara and working in Oxford and roaming round the streets with her friend, walking through...
So Lisa Tarbuck was then speaking as the whistle went and gained that extra point. And she's now, well, she's moved forward, but she's still in 4th place. But no, she's not very far behind. The other 3, Kit, it's your turn to begin. Curiosities. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
In the back streets of Norwich, in Lower Goat Lane, there's a curiosity shop. You can tell which it is by the dead cats on the doormat. You go inside and a voice says, "I am!" which is the shortest sentence in the English language. You say, what a funny smell. It's the cockroaches. It's a curiosity, but they carry on living for 9 days after they've had their heads chopped off. What do you sell here? Windscreen wipers and laser jets, all invented by women, remarkably enough. Can I have some lipstick, please? No, because there's none left. They use up 5 times their height in a lifetime. Would you like a stuffed porcupine, the only mammal which kisses on the lips? You're barking mad. I said I must get out of here. Don't go!
Yes, you went well, though.
Oh, it was...
Really?
I was there.
Yes, and there's only... Paul, you challenge first.
Yes, you said something about a mammal, the only mammal that kisses on the lips. Well, humans kiss on the lips, don't they? They're mammals.
I suppose technically, if you want to do that sort of thing.
And also, it was a very long advert for this shop in Norwich, which surely must be against the BBC's charter.
12 seconds. Curiosities with you, Paul, starting now.
The most curious shop I've ever been to is in Norwich, where I actually own the establishment and I dress up as this old proprietor. And when Kit Hesketh-Harvey comes in, I give him a right load of old bollocks about a load of old rubbish, and he sits there laughing.
Yes. Well, that last point was well deserved. What a clever way. That's why he's so good at the game. He takes the other subject and twists it back on his previous tormentor. Right. You've now moved ahead. You're 2 ahead of the other 2 and 3 ahead of Lisa. And Charles, your turn to begin. The subject, the Great Wall of China. 60 seconds as usual. Charles, starting now.
I can only think of one thing more boring than having to go and look at the Great Wall of China than being the person who built it all those many years ago. The thought of standing with bricks in your hands, putting one solid slab on top of the other, year after year, watching the fact... It's been a very long day for me.
Oh, no, you did so well. You were appointed saying one brick on top of the other brick.
And I was congratulating myself.
You relax and it all lets go, doesn't it?
Paul, right. The Great Wall of China, 42 seconds, starting now.
Apparently, from the Great Wall of China, you can see the moon. Isn't that an extraordinary fact? As Charles mentioned earlier, the Great Wall was built by... It's not actually finished yet. We're expecting it to be done in a couple of weeks' time, because they're like the builders I've had in the past. But a magnificent structure that it is, and when they constructed this...
Construct and constructed.
I was too quick.
I know.
Sorry, Paul.
You were too slow earlier on in the show, but because you didn't get it. But now,
Story of my life, Nicholas.
Juices are now flowing.
Your contribution's great. Don't worry, Charles.
Foxtrot, isn't it? Quick,
Paul, an
slow.
incorrect challenge. 22 seconds still available on the Great Wall of China starting now.
One of the great variety acts of the 19th century was the Great Wall of China. It was very dull but comprehensive. The act would usually begin around at 4:30 in the morning and would carry on to about several weeks later as brick by solid slab was placed on top of one another year after 12 months. It seemed like there was no end to it. What a magnificent achievement it was.
Oh, you're getting your money's worth in the City of Varieties.
I thought he made me look a bit of a fool towards the end.
Nobody could ever do that, Charles.
No, I think he did.
He's just shining.
I think he did. I'm on the edge. I could just slip off again. You wouldn't notice it.
He's excelling himself, as he often does, and right. But with those extra points Paul got in that round, and one speaking as the whistle went, he's moved forward. He's now in a lead just ahead of Kit, Hesketh-Harvey, and then come Charles Collingwood and Liza Tarbuck, only a couple of points behind. I give you that situation because we're moving into the final round.
Okay.
Well, I tell you what, would you like us to come back again? I will fix that for you if I possibly can. And maybe the same audience will come and see us again. Who knows? Right, Lisa, would you take the last round? It's actually your turn as well. And the subject is, what a good one, God's own county. They've recognised it in the front there. Everybody in the front row claps before they say anything. It's lovely. Right. Lisa, 60 seconds starting now.
I had a good idea that God's own county might be up north, but to be quite honest with you, I thought for the whole of Sunday it was actually Kent. Then I moved through to Surrey, but in fact I've invented God's own country and it's called Big Grey Beardshire. I don't know how to get there, I don't know how to get back, and I'm not allowed to buy a holiday home because if I do, the local children won't be allowed to stay in there and run the corn shop.
Charles,
So
challenge.
there were two allows.
That's right, yes, there were
Very
indeed.
strict, aren't you?
Well done, Charles, yes. So Charles...
That was going to be really good then as well.
It was fascinating.
by the way, I should point out, you were talking about God's own country and the subject of God's own county.
Was I?
Yes.
It just, do you know, I don't know what the hell I'm doing here today.
Well, we know, because we just love having you here, Lisa. You're so lovely and charming.
Uncle Nicholas.
And you contribute. Our secret's out. Right, Charles, you had a correct challenge. You have 45 seconds. Tell us something about God's own county starting now.
I have to say that God's own county is Borsetshire. Is it not? There's only one...
Kit Charles.
It's not, no. You're labouring under a delusion. It doesn't really exist.
28 years I've been doing this.
It's a parallel universe.
It's not.
I'm sorry to have to tell you, it's all fiction, Charles, that you're doing.
But hang on a minute.
Is it really?
He must have travelled from somewhere to get here.
I did. I came from Hambridge.
Yeah.
Right.
In God's own county. I'm rather cracking up.
It's a difficult decision because, in a way, you could say in his imagination and in the world in which he lives, in the Archers, it could be God's own county.
Sure.
So there is an argument for that, as well as the
a lot of
fact...
people think you're fictional, don't they?
Yes, I know. And that's why I stick to radio, so that... No, I give it away when I come on television, don't I? Right, so I'm not going to allow it, Charles.
Do you?
Thank you.
Should we try some and find out?
Oh, thank you, audience. You're so lovely. I'm definitely coming back again. You're almost as good as when I did my one-man show here, actually. You were lovely then,
hello.
too. Yes.
It wasn't quite this full, though, was it, Nicholas?
Does the one-man element refer to the stage or the auditorium?
They're so mean to me, aren't they? And I take it in good grace, because I know that audience know, because many of them are here, and that's why you've come back again. I will
they've
get out of this
died.
if I possibly can. Charles, you continue on God's own county. 41 seconds starting now.
Well, I come from Hampshire, and that's my God's own county, I can tell you. Winchester, Andover, Southampton, Portsmouth, all places that mean everything to me. I support the county cricket team, thrick and through. That was Hampshire. That was just a bit of Hampshire
I know
dialect.
it was, yeah. It was a repetitious Hampshire dialect.
Yes. It was also very sad.
And it's very suspect, too. I don't know about this frickin'. So anyway...
Frickin' through, you know.
Frickin' through. So, Paul, repetition. You have 25 seconds on God's own county starting now.
Lancashire. What a wonderful place. Why no, he has... I don't quite understand. Is there a rivalry between the two
Charles,
counties?
Charles.
I'm sorry.
Is there a rivalry?
I'm sorry. In here, that has to be deviation.
All I can say... In here, it's courage. But, Charles, a correct challenge. You've got another point. 18 seconds. God's own county starting now.
If I lived in Yorkshire, I'm such a creep that I would say Yorkshire is God's own county. You mean I can't repeat Yorkshire here?
No. You can repeat Yorkshire here, but you can't... You can repeat Yorkshire here, but you can't repeat it in just a minute, which you did. Paul got in first, and 12 seconds on God's own county, Paul, starting now.
When we think of the great achievements of Yorkshire over the centuries, we can't help but be awed by the magnificent that has been achieved. One only...
Kit challenge.
The magnificence that has been achieved, was
The
it?
magnificence has been achieved.
Oh, I think it was magnificent. Sorry.
My
Was it?
pronunciation of
I
yours.
beg your pardon, Ditchen dear. You have to fling it to the back of the upper circle, love, here. Love. Victor Spinetti said to have put an E on the end of everything. Nicholas Parsons. And he goes whee up to the upper circle.
You've gone a bit, haven't
I'm
you?
sorry, no, he trained me. The boy I love is up in the gallery. I remember doing here with him.
Right. I don't know what he's talking about, but let's get on. Paul, you had an incorrect challenge. You have another point. You're surging. Your lead is surging forward as we come to the end with 3 seconds to go on God's own county starting now.
Beer, puddings, women, they're all better in Yorkshire.
So in suitable style, Paul Merton brought this edition of Just a Minute to end, commenting on this place we're in here at the City Varieties in Leeds, and they have been a wonderful, true Yorkshire audience, and that will be our memories. Lovely audiences in Yorkshire, too. That deserved a better reaction. I think you know the final situation. Liza was only just in fourth place, one behind Kit Hesketh-Harvey. No, there's only 1 point between them all. Charles Collingwood, one behind Kit Hesketh-Harvey. But a few points out of the lead was Paul Merton. So we say, Paul, you are the winner this week. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these four delightful players of the game. Paul Merton, Kit Hesketh-Harvey, Liza Tarbuck, Charles Collingwood. I also thank Susie Best, who for the first time and magnificently has helped me with the score and blown her whistle with such panache. We thank our producer, director, that is Chris Neal. We are indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this game. We're deeply indebted to this lovely Yorkshire audience here in the City Varieties in Leeds. From the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and our team, goodbye. Tune in the next time we take to the air and we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it is my infinite pleasure to welcome our many listeners throughout the world. Not only those who listen on Radio 4 and Radio 7, but those who tune in on the World Service and through the Internet. And also it's a huge pleasure to welcome four exciting, talented and experienced players of the game who have joined me this week to play Just a Minute. It's an infinite joy to welcome back that effervescent, engaging and sometimes outrageous comedian, Graham Norton, and beside him sits an outstanding comedian, that is Ross Noble. On my right we have another wonderful stand-up comedian, and that is Tony Hawkes. And beside him we have one of the stalwarts of Just a Minute, who's been on the show more times than anybody else, and his engaging and witty and provocative contributions are always welcome. That is Clement Freud, and please welcome all four of them. And as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Besides me sits Janet Staplehurst. She's going to help me keep the score. She'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds are up. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from London, from central London, from a place called the Drill Hall. And we'll start the show with Graham Norton. Who better? Graham, the subject is chewing the fat. Tell us something about this subject in this game, starting now.
I quite enjoyed chewing the fat, which is just as well as only this last weekend I ordered a loin of lamb that had so much fat on it. The only explanation could be that the baby sheep was raised in the food court of a motorway services. It was bizarre. It must have looked like a jellyfish with wool on it when it was in a field. I think my mistake was ordering it rare. I didn't think that meant the species, but obviously it was. Some freakish thing was served to me, and it was mostly fat. Fat, of course, is in the title, Chewing the Fat, so I can say fat quite a lot. I can also discuss the chewing of the fat. There, I said it again. That's me.
What? Tony Hawk's your challenge.
Repetition of said.
Yeah, you said it before.
Oh.
Yeah.
Also, he was talking absolute rubbish.
I was chewing the fat!
Yes, in a way that was an example
Thank
of
you.
chewing the fat. But Tony, it was a correct challenge, so you get a point for that. You take over the subject. You have 19 seconds available. It's chewing the fat starting now.
I'm on a diet, so I only do low-fat chewing, which means I don't talk as much as I ought to when I'm with my chums. But they love to chew the fat, talk about what's going on in the world, and I'm not really interested. Like Graham, I would rather just say chew the fat rather than actually...
Graham, you challenged just as the whistle started. What is
It's a
your
bit
challenge?
mean, this, but repetition of chew.
Yes, because you did say chew before, and he's chewing the fat on the... You've got him with quarter of a second to go.
me!
You haven't won many friends, but you've got a clever challenge there.
Yeah.
So you've got a point for a correct challenge. You've got quarter of a second on chewing the fat, starting now.
Chewing the fat is involved.
So whoever is speaking in this game, when the whistle goes, gains an extra point. On this occasion was Graham Norton. He's naturally in the lead at the end of the round. Ross Noble, will you take the next round? The subject is poetic license. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
In order to become a poet, you must sit a test for your poetic license. You must first go along with an examiner who takes you into a small booth. He then will slap a pencil against the dashboard of the said area, and you must quickly think of something that rhymes with a word that he has pulled out of his pocket, written on a special card. You must then go from a standing start, turning in the road at the same time, reciting as many exciting lines as dialogue you possibly can muster as a man in a floppy hat wanders lonely as a cloud nearby. It's very important that while he is doing that particular movement, like the meteorological device that is...
Down you went for 44 seconds. Oh, yes.
I know it's not a device. How can a cloud be a device?
I know, but Clement, you challenged.
Yes.
What was it?
Hesitation.
Yes, I agree. There was a hesitation there. Just a little hesitation before the last one.
enough.
Fair enough. So,
You're wrong.
Clement, we're going to hear from you. You have a point, you have poetic license, and you have 16 seconds starting now.
There was an old man from Japan whose poetry never could scan. When asked reasons why, he replied with a sigh, "Well, you see, it's like this. I always try and get as many lines into the last word as I possibly can."
Totally challenged.
Repetition of can?
No, it was scan to begin with.
Yes.
I thought there were two cans in the last line. It was going so fast
Where
I
did
couldn't
all these
make
two
it out
things
or
come
not.
from?
I do speak very quickly, I know.
Yes. In other words, it becomes an incorrect challenge, and therefore Clement gets another point for that, and he keeps the subject, and he has 4 seconds on poetic license starting now.
Poetic license is something which all poets need.
So Clement Freud was then speaking as the whistle went. He gained that extra point. He's now one ahead of Graham Norton, then Tony Hawks and Ross Noble in that order. And Tony, your turn to begin. The subject is Samuel Pepys. Tell us something about that great man in this game, starting now.
There's a little hole in the fence at the bottom of my garden. Whenever my godson Samuel comes round to my house, he goes down and Samuel peeps through that opening into a wonderful world where you don't need a poetic license to do poetry or anything like that. In fact, Samuel Pepys, little known to most people, was the man who invented the peep show. He went into Soho one day and he was so excited by what he saw around him.
Ross Noble challenge.
Repetition of so. Soho, so excited.
Yeah, but Soho is a word and so is another word.
I was feeling mischievous.
I know you were. We give you a bonus point because the audience enjoyed it. Bonus point to Ross Noble for that challenge. But Tony was interrupted, so he gets a point. He continues with Samuel Pepys. 33 seconds starting now.
Got up at 7 a.m, wandered down Threadneedle Street, noticed it was on fire. This is the sort of thing that Samuel Pepys would have written down many centuries ago in his famous diaries, which I haven't read myself, but I believe are rather well written and quite enjoyable to look at and possibly even scan your eyes over if you're feeling that way inclined. In fact, I think next week, prompted by what's happening tonight, I will go out and get Samuel Pepys's works and will study them until I'm...
Tony Hawk, speaking as a whistle-wang, gained that extra point, and well done, because he started with the subject, had 1 interruptions, and finished with the subject. Well done, Tony. Clement, your turn to begin. Oh, yes, and lovely subject now. The subject now is nudists. Clement, the subject is nudists. 60 seconds starting now.
Nudists are people who wear no clothes. Shoes, socks, pants, shirt, ties, jackets, pullovers, cardigans, anoraks, are all out with their possession, because nudists like to flaunt what God has given them. Skin, bones, and genitalia, which...
Ross, challenge.
Oh, that's deviation, surely. They don't flaunt their bones.
You have to... No, I think they flaunt their flesh, their muscles, their skin, whatever, but not their bones. No, I think you were pushing it a bit too far there, Clement. So, Ross, you have a correct challenge. And you have 40 seconds on nudists starting now.
Somebody once gave me a brilliant piece of advice. Never do a show in a nudist camp, because when they all sit down, it's like a round of applause. And that can be very confusing, especially if the people on offer are particularly flabby as they go toward...
Graham, your challenge.
Oh, it's sort of a hesitation.
It was a hesitation, Graham. So you tell us something about nudists in this game, and you've got 25 seconds starting now.
When I look at nudists, I always wonder which came first, the tanned, leathery chicken wing arms or the volleyball. It is extraordinary. They take their clothes off, and it's like they're like flies. Oh, I'm saying like a lot. I'm just chatting.
Tony Chan says.
I think repetition of like. I wouldn't have spotted it.
Did I say like? I didn't notice myself.
Yes, you did. Right. And Tony, we're going to hear from you on nudists as well. So everybody's had a go at the bare flesh. Right. 11 seconds for you, starting now.
When I think of nudists, I remember the Carry On films and the careful placing of the guitar by the director as one of the characters stands on a fence.
So Tony Hawks, with points in the round, and including 1 for speaking when the whistle went, has moved forward. He's now in the lead. He's 2 ahead of Clement Freud and Graham Norton, and 3 ahead of Ross Noble. And Graham, it's your turn to begin again. The subject, a busman's holiday. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Presumably the expression a busman's holiday comes from times of yore, when the people who worked on buses, conductors, drivers, possibly inspectors, maybe even those who tinker at the engine beyond the bonnet, big things in a bus, they went on holidays on a coach, which is a sort of bus, let's face it. And of course that'd be quite dull for them because that's where they work. It'd be a bit like Nicholas going on a holiday and seeing an exhibition of ties from schools he never went to. I sometimes wonder if... Oh dear, was that too cruel? Stop me.
Ross, you shout.
I just thought I'd stop for your sake. You know,
Yeah.
I'm glad you did.
I thought you might have lunged across and punched the man. I think there was a touch of hesitation.
There was a touch of it. Yes, he got his big...
I was just driven by guilt. It was awful.
And slight regret as well.
It was great.
I just think you got the bigger laugh than you ever expected, and you just...
I know, I stumbled upon a terrible truth, didn't I? I wasn't even sure, but they, oh yes, I know, yeah.
No, it's the lot of the chairman in this show. Have a good go at him and you get a big laugh, right? But you lost the subject. And Ross, you have a correct challenge. You have a busman's holiday and you have 21 seconds starting now.
Busman was the most rubbish of all the superheroes. Unlike Superman, who was able to leap tall buildings in a single stride, fly across the metropolis, sadly Busman wasn't up to scratch. All he could do was get loads of kids and take them to school.
Tony, challenge.
Well, I think he's had enough time to tell us about this busman's holiday. So I'd say deviation.
Oh, I was getting to that.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Hawkes.
Subject is busman's holiday.
You divided the audience. I say one thing.
I don't think I have. I think they're all against me.
Maybe,
yes.
Listen, I have to make a decision and I have to give you the benefit of the doubt, so you will have the benefit of the doubt on this occasion, and I will redress the balance if I get an opportunity in favour of Ross later, and you have 5 seconds on a busman's holiday starting now.
Let's all go on holiday together, the panel, because we all love each other so...
Challenge.
2 alls.
2 alls. Because we all love each other so much. Let's all go on holiday and because we all love. Yes, there were 2 alls, and you got in there. We thought you had another challenge, which is with 1 second to go on a busman's holiday, Clement, starting now.
It's better to
Right. Clement, speaking as a whistleblower, gained an extra point, and he's only 1 point behind our leader, still Tony Hawkes, and the other 2 in third place equal. Ross Noble, your turn to begin. The subject, Old Wives' Tales. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Old wives' tales are my favourite type of movie. How many times have I sat down with the local Blockbusters offering to watch a story of old wives? They really are quite exciting. Sadly, not as much action as in Tales of Busman, which is, quite frankly, the best action film I've ever said. Action twice, no one's Busman.
Graham.
Sorry, just stabbing in the dark. Action, repetition of...
Sort of intuition
yes.
over that one, yes. Yes, of course it was, yes. He drew your attention to it, he should have kept going. 39 seconds. Old Wives' Tales is with you, Graham, starting now.
Old wives' tales, I've noticed, tend to be quite dull, usually involving a neighbour's hip replacement, or perhaps how a perfectly lovely meal...
Tony challenged.
Sorry, I thought he was going to hesitate. He didn't. I withdraw immediately.
Oh, well, thanks for that.
So are we having psychic challenges now?
Well, no. I got a bit too trigger happy.
Trigger happy. Well, all that happens is Graham was interrupted, so he gets another point for that.
Sorry.
And 31 seconds to continue on Old Wives' Tales, starting now.
Old wives travel in packs and descend on restaurants, at the end of which the maitre d' might as well say, anything all right with your meal? Because they love to complain. Their tales are more like moans, really. Those old wives, they love a good old gurn and a gnash about something. That gives them almost pleasure, in fact.
Oh, you were going so strong until the came in with 3 seconds to go. Clement, you challenge, yes. Hesitation. Right. Old Wives' Tales, 3 seconds, starting now.
I have an old wife, and it's...
Clement speaking as the whistle again, the extra point of the other in the round. He's now 1 ahead of Tony Hawkes, who's still our leader, and the other 2 are equal almost in third place. Tony Hawkes, your turn to begin. The subject, resting. Tell us something about that in just a minute, starting now.
Many years ago, I had a delightful teddy called Tom, and I would wander round the house until my mother insisted on wresting it away from me. So fond of it I had become. So I decided to become an actor and become...
Clement challenge.
I'm afraid become.
Two becomes, yes. Resting's with you, Clement, and there are 44 seconds starting now.
It goes on a lot in funeral parlours. Look where you will, and they are resting. Hardly any noise emanates from those buildings. And if you ask why that should be, it is simply that they are resting, quietly awaiting whatever people have in mind for them. And I'm not sure what it is or whether they...
Ross challenge.
Buried or burned. That's what's awaiting them. They're the options, right? He doesn't know what they are. Right. Buried, burned. Right. There's nothing else.
Nothing else.
You don't just flick them over a fence.
You could be...
I'll give you a bonus point because the audience enjoyed your interruption, which had got nothing to do with the rules of just a minute, and you've got a bonus point. Clement was interrupted. He gets a point for that. He has 21 seconds, still with you resting, Clement, starting now.
Actors, when they're not working, are said to be resting, which is a polite way of saying you are out of work.
Tony challenge.
He's clearly out of work.
You completely... Out of words,
He stopped. I think we'll interpret that as a hesitation.
Yes, it would be a definite hesitation, a full stop. 12 seconds are available. You tell us something about resting again, starting now.
Everybody knows that acting is so exhausting that after you have acted in a play for 3 weeks, you must rest for 18 months. And this is what I did when I...
Right, so Tony Hawks, with points in the round, and one was speaking, and the whistle went, has moved forward, and he's now one ahead of Clement. Freud has now taken the lead from Clement. And the other two are coming up behind very rapidly. And Clement, it's your turn to begin. The subject now is Hilaire Belloc. Tell us something about that man in this game, starting now.
Hilaire Belloc was a poet, philosopher, and a Liberal Member of Parliament who acceded to the Palace of Westminster in 1906 for Campbell Bannerman's first...
Ross challenge.
Hesitation?
Yes, there was an definite there. So Ross...
I don't actually want the subject, to be perfectly honest.
Well, you challenge, you got points, do your best, knowing how you can freewheel in your show. I'm sure you'll find a way to go with Hilaire Belloc. 48 seconds, starting now.
That is, in fact, a wrestling move invented by a man called Hilaire. It was used in woodland activities. When a bear would approach, you would use the Hilaire Belloc by grabbing him in a special thing like that. You would simply drag the creature across the area and put your arm down on top of him. He would be growling in your face, but you mustn't be discouraged, no matter how desperately he tries to get the picnic basket off you.
Oh, he got so many rounds of applause in that thing. Give him an extra bonus point for what he did, because the audience applauds and endorses that. Clement, you had a challenge.
Deviation.
Why?
Well, it was a long way from Hilaire Belloc.
No, he was talking about his particular Hilaire Belloc, which is a wrestling term in the when you're wrestling with bears, wasn't it?
And you can get no closer to a bear.
That's right.
Yeah.
I gave the benefit of the doubt against him last time. He gets it this time.
Oh,
he gets
hurrah.
another part. And he has 19 seconds, starting now.
A bear was once...
Yes.
Repetition of bear?
Yes, you had that. So, Clement, you've got your subject back again. You have 18 seconds. Hilaire Belloc, starting now.
Among the cautionary verses Hilaire Belloc wrote, Lord Finchley one night tried to mend the electric light. Himself he got a shock, it struck him dead. Serve him right. It is the duty of a noble man to give employment to an artisan. He also, I shot a hippopotamus with bullets made of platinum.
So Clement Freud was speaking again as the whistle went, and with other points he got earlier on. He has now gone one ahead of Tony Hawks. It's neck and neck, and then comes Ross Noble, just 2-3 points behind, and then Graham Norton. And Graham, your turn to begin. The subject, bingo. Tell us something about bingo in just a minute, starting now.
Two fat ladies, I wonder if they're going to bingo. And they might well be, because shouting housey isn't exactly a great calorie burner. No, as a form of exercise, it's really quite sedate. My favourite bit is that marker pen you get that can do nothing else but go splodge on the number, on the card, which you have in front of you, on the desk, by the seat, near the floor.
Ross challenged.
It was 3 ons in a row.
There were 3 ons in a row, yes.
It's a short, tiny word.
And a short, tiny way. They often let 2 go, but 3 and close together.
Okay.
Tough challenge. Oh, he's hurt now. No, you were doing a great double act a moment ago. It's all broken up now. The Ross, 35 seconds. Bingo starting now.
I did a charity gig recently for The Big Issue. When playing bingo for people who live on the streets, it's always difficult to shout house because it can be considered in some way to be not very pleasant, and in a lot of respects, but wrong, just about.
Tony challenge.
I think there was a hesitation.
There was definitely a hesitation. Tony, tell us something about bingo. 18 seconds starting now.
Bingo is actually a human being I met when in Ireland. Unusual name, but I went hitchhiking with him.
Clement challenge.
2 wents.
Clement, correct challenge, of course. 11 seconds, bingo with you, starting now.
Before the gaming laws were changed, dogs were given as prizes for bingo and were always called ognib, which is bingo backwards. I thought you'd be interested to hear that.
Clement Freud with more points then, including 1 for speaking. So Whistle Went has moved forward. He's now 3 ahead of Tony Hawks and 4 ahead of Ross Noble and 5 ahead of Graham Norton. And Ross, your turn to begin. The subject, extreme sports. You've told us about one already, but maybe you can tell us about some more in this game, starting now.
There are many extreme sports people. For example, Fabiola de Silva is one. She is the inline skating champion, and the greatest skateboarder ever is a man by the name of Tony Hawk. You can see where this is going, can't you? Yes, imagine the confusion when a man sitting not too far away from here gets booked to do a big stunt display, and the said athlete is here to do just a minute. Obviously, the buzzer goes and he can't answer because, unfortunately, whilst being very good at spinning in the air on that small piece of wood with wheels on it, he's absolutely rubbish at this game. I haven't ever seen the bloke over there attempting to do any form of 360, a toe in the nose, one of those fantastic double backflip somersaults with a 970 triple axel fly spin half section 349 of the aforementioned sporting activity. The sport that the person that I'm...
Started with the subject, finished with the subject. Towards the end, he was rambling a bit, but the other 3 were very kind.
They're just too old to buzz in and go, he's talking rubbish
They love the way...
He's a young person, he must know what he's talking about.
They just love the way you were suffering, actually. The audience did as well, yes. So you actually not only get a point for speaking as the whistle went, but you get a bonus point because you went for the whole 60 seconds without being interrupted. So you're now, you leapt forward, but you're sitting in second place now, not far behind Clement Freud, ahead of Tony Hawks and just ahead of Graham Norton. And we're coming into the last round, and the number of points they've got doesn't give any indication of the contributions they've made. They're all in equal proportion, but the actual point scored is slightly different. I'm glad you appreciated that. In descending order, it's Clement Freud, Tony Hawk, Ross Noble and Graham Norton in that order, but only about 1 or 2 points separates each one of them. And we're moving into the final round. Anybody can win if they're interested in points. And Clement, your turn to begin, and the subject is canteen food. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I think any subject that bears my initials has got to be pretty good. And canteen food is something I know hardly anything about, while 60 seconds are just about right for discussing canteen food, bangers and mash.
Tony challenge.
I think 60 seconds is too long, in fact.
I think so. And once he thought about his bangers and mash, he came to a shuddering halt.
He did.
Right. So there are 45 seconds, 43 seconds still available. Tony, you've got another point. You've got the subject. You've got canteen food starting now.
Whenever I come to one of the buildings of the British Broadcasting Corporation, I make a point of heading for the canteen because I love the food that they supply there. It gets a lot of criticism, but those people don't know they're bored. It's fantastic. I sit down, I take my knife and fork, put the plate in front of me, pop the canteen food on top. That's the correct procedure, I believe. No one can tell me otherwise because they're fools if they think so. I tuck into gammon with pineapple because they think that's sexy in the
Clement challenge.
Repetition of think.
Yes, they did think that more than once, I'm afraid. So, Clement, you're back with your canteen food, and you've got 16 seconds starting now.
Fish and chips, peas, beans, tomatoes.
I can see that you haven't been to many canteens, Clement. That's all you can think of that exists there. But
It was nice till you got to tomato. I thought, oh, that was delicious, and then tomato. No!
And then he went, he flipped right. You got in first, Ross, and... sorry, Graham, and you've got 10 seconds, and you've got canteen food starting now.
I, like Tony, love canteen food in school. Oh, it's exciting. On Fridays, it was Scotch eggs and chips. When my first year, you got 2 of the lovely...
Graham Norton was speaking then as well, so Wayne gained that extra point, and we have a final result, if you're interested in the points, which is so fair it's not true. Graham Norton, with that last little flourish, Ross Noble and Tony Hawkes all finished equal in second place. Round of applause for the 3 of them. But only 3 points ahead was Clement Freud, so we say, Clement, you are the winner on points this week. Another round of applause for Clement. Remains for me to say thank you to these 4 intrepid players of the game, Graham Norton, Ross Noble, Tony Hawkes and Clement Freud. I thank Janet Staplehurst, who's helped me keep the score. She'd blown her whistle so delicately when the 60 seconds was up. We thank our producer, Claire Jones, who looks after us and makes sure it all goes out so smoothly. We are indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this game, and we're very grateful to this audience who staggered in from all parts of London to come and cheer us on our way. Thank you to the panel from me, Nicholas Parsons, and all of us here. Goodbye. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it is my pleasure to welcome our many listeners throughout the world who tune in to Radio 4, the World Service, or on the Internet, and also to welcome to the show this week 4 talented, exciting, and really clever players of the game who come together to show their humorous ability, their verbal dexterity, their ingenuity, as they try and speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And sitting on my right together we have Paul Merton and Clement Freud, and sitting on my left we have Graham Norton and Linda Smith. Will you please welcome all 4 of them? And sitting beside me is Janet Staplehurst, who's going to help me keep the score and blow a whistle when the 60 seconds are up. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from St Edmund's Hall in that delightful coastal Suffolk town of Southwold. And we're part of the Theatre Festival of Southwold in the summer here. It's a hot night, and we have a hot audience who are ready to cheer us on our way in every sense of the word as we begin the show with Clement Freud. Clement, the subject is My Favourite Words. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
My favourite words are, Clement Freud, you are the winner. But I quite enjoy words like unguent and languid, parallelogram, ubiquitous.
Paul, challenge.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation, yes.
And also deviation, because I know that parallelogram is one of Clement's most hated words. I went on a trip to Carlisle, coming back from doing this show. He went on about how he hated parallelogram. He said, I can't stand that word. It was quite embarrassing in the end. I had to pretend I didn't know him. So for him to sit here and tell these people this is one of his favourite words, I think it's cheating the British public.
I enjoyed that little soliloquy, Paul. I can't give you a bonus point.
That's sort of pudding, isn't it?
But I can give you the subject and a bonus, not a bonus point, a point for speaking for a correct challenge. And there are 44 seconds. The subject is my favourite words, starting now.
Tangerine, lemur, cricket, basket, cheese, wombat, fruit, Norman, Harold, Wilson. These are some of my favourite words. Others are exit, Door. Peanut. Instrumental. Wisdom. Windoline.
Graham challenge. Graham, why did you try?
No, I thought it was a repetition, but it was I just knew you had said something like wisdom, but in fact it was Wilson. That's what it was.
That's right, yes. Sorry. It's quite close, but not quite the same.
No,
it couldn't be more contrast when it would be Norman Wisdom and Harold Wilson. So an incorrect challenge, I'm afraid. And so a point to you, Paul, for that. And you have 21 seconds to continue with my favourite words, starting now.
Words are wonderful creations, aren't they? Without words, how could we communicate? I suppose a simple mime might suffice, but even then, we wouldn't be sure what we were trying to say to each other. When you get a book, one that you really look forward to reading...
Clement Freud challenge.
Deviation. He's got away from my favourite words.
Reading a book? Well, what's in a book? Onions? I mean, what...
No, I don't think so, Clement. I mean, he was on about his favourite words, and he started reading a book. He was probably going to tell us the favourite words that he'd find in his book.
Nicholas, you're reading my mind.
So an incorrect challenge. Paul, you still have the subject. You have 7 seconds. My favourite words starting now.
Beard. Trimmings. These are a few of my favourite things. When I think back...
Linda challenge.
Said few before.
Yes, we did have a few before. Yes.
Did I?
Yes, you had a few.
Are you sure?
I'm absolutely certain. I am listening. It's part of my job. That's why I get paid.
Is it you? This is a job?
No, it's an infinite pleasure, especially when you're on the show, Paul. But Linda, correct challenge, yes, repetition, 2 seconds for you on my favourite words, starting now.
My favourite words are bad language and violence.
Whoever is speaking when the whistle goes in this game gains an extra point. On this occasion was Linda Smith. So, Linda, you have 2 points. Paul has 3. The others have yet to score. And, Linda, it is your turn to begin. And the subject is Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. Will you tell us something about them in this game, starting now?
Name Snow White's 7 Dwarfs is a popular pub quiz question. I often get it confused with that other poser concerning the cast of the Magnificent Seven. And answer, dozy, sleepy, grumpy, and Yul Brynner. It doesn't win me many points in a quiz. The film...
Graham challenge.
Oh, repetition of quiz.
Yes, right, it was quiz, yes.
Yes, you're right.
Yes. So, Graham, you've got in with 41 seconds available. Tell us something about Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, starting now.
Given that the woman lived with 7 men, oh, the irony that somebody called her Snow White. How could she be anything like that? I don't think so. I hope her mother never found out. How vile. And that prince can't have been too bright either. Who'd have her after that? But I do recall some...
Clement, you challenge.
That's hesitation.
Yes.
Yes, it was a hesitation. Right, Clement, you have 15 seconds for us to tell us something about Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, starting now.
I went to see the film of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs in the 1930s on my bicycle, driving to Lowestoft, pedalling like hell up the few hills, and getting to Rentham and having a bottle of Tice.
So, Clement Freud was then speaking as the whistle end gained that extra point. And, Graham, it's your turn to begin. The subject is communes. Tell us something about communes in this game, starting now.
Well, about 20 years ago, I lived in a hippie commune for a year in America. Now, the whole house smelt of wet dog. But once you got over that, the next problem was that you had to cook for the entire household. Now, all my other communards were vegetarians. I was 20 from Ireland. We didn't have them. But I reckoned that what they eat must be salad. How can you go wrong? My mother had taught me how to cook that. 1 lettuce leaf, 2 slices of egg, perhaps some pickled beetroot, and a lot of salad cream. All one word, I'm thinking.
Paul challenge.
Repetition of salad.
You had salad before.
Salad cream. Salad cream.
You know, it's 2 words, salad cream. So, yes, you did have salad before. 18 seconds with you, Paul, on Communes starting now.
While I was an undercover spy, I found myself disguised as Snow White, and I used to live with 7 dwarves in a commune deep in the forest. It was a magical place, and every morning I used to get up feeling grumpy and then realise...
Clement, you challenged.
He said I used to, twice.
He did say I used to twice, yes. We love the groping grumpy there.
Well, I didn't say anything about groping anybody. What on earth are you suggesting?
Oh, feeling grumpy, which...
Completely different matter, I think you'll find. Your witness.
I want you to go on. I wondered what else you were feeling. Anyway, yes, he did say used to twice. 6 seconds with you, Clement, on Communes starting now.
In a bar in Great Yarmouth, where a commune was quite close, a man came up and said, I am the 8th.
So Clement Freud was then speaking as the whistle went. Gained that extra point. He's equal with Paul Merton in the lead. Clement, your turn to begin. The subject is my lucky number. Tell us what your lucky... Well, no, don't tell. The subject is my lucky number, starting now.
My lucky number is 24. I was born on lucky number, April 19 lucky number. And I lived at lucky number Drayton Gardens and moved to lucky number Sussex Place. I go to...
Well, it was a hesitation there, but also shows a stunning lack of ambition. I live at 24, I moved to 24. There are other houses, you know.
I thought you were going to have a repetition of I, but...
I interpreted that as
hesitation. Right. For 43 seconds for you, Paul, on my lucky number starting now.
Professional gamblers say there's no point in playing roulette because the odds are against you, but you have some kind of chance with blackjack. This is a game, I think, akin to pontoon, where cards are dealt. Clement, no doubt, has played this in many a casino. I'd like to know from him how well he actually... There's some kids looking through the door. Excuse me, you're not allowed to just stand there and look in, you know. This is a BBC show. What do you think you do? These people are paid. These people have paid good money to see this. Come in. Do. Come through. Look, there we are. There they are. There's one. Come on, in you come. Come on, in. That's it. There we are. Take the seat. And I just want to say why you should vote for me at the next coming election is because as your Liberal candidate...
Clement Freud challenge.
Deviation.
Oh, yes,
nothing to do with the children coming in.
The children coming in has got nothing to do with my lucky number, but I think we were going to be generous and let him get away with it. But
I've let him get away with it.
No, I don't think we could. He didn't come back to the subject quick enough after the children came in, so...
Is this a new form of
no,
just a minute? It's called extreme just a minute. Distractions are brought in throughout the evening to see how you cope.
We've never had this situation before. We've never had the doors open before. We've never had people come in. They had one look at us.
Audience to stay.
That's it. I think that it's almost impossible decision, so let us assume that nothing happened. And I mean, that happened, but within the rules of just a minute. They're going to come in again in a minute. Please, either come in or stay out. Right. Paul, you carry on. 13 seconds. My lucky number starting now.
My lucky number is 7 and 7/8. I was distracted by that child.
Right, Clement, yes, you got that one. So you're in on it anyway, Clement. 10 seconds. My lucky number starting now.
I think I've already explained what my lucky number is. So let me tell you about the lucky numbers of other members of my family, one of whom I see in the front.
Well, Clement Freud and Paul Merton, it's neck and neck. They're out in front together in the lead, followed by Linda Smith and Graham Norton. And Linda, your turn to begin. The subject now is turkeys. It's a bit not unseasonal at this time of year to be talking about them. Tell us something about them in this game, starting now.
Turkeys are raised in great numbers in the neighbouring county of Norfolk by a man whose name escapes me for entirely legal reasons. But I believe...
Oh, Paul, you challenged.
Bernard Matthews.
Right, a bonus point to Paul, but Linda wasn't deviating, hesitating, or repeating herself, so you keep the subject, Linda. You have 51 seconds. Turkeys starting now.
Whatever he's called, his products are beautiful, especially one item I delight in, which is called Dino Lips. They are mechanically recovered turkey fragments formed into the shape of dinosaur lips. They are
Clement Chalmers.
Rudyard Kipling.
Rudyard Kipling. Yes. Elucidate, Clement.
Paul got a bonus point for saying Bernard Matthews. Yeah. I thought I might get one for Rudyard.
Yeah, but the difference is, Clement, that Rudyard Kipling had got nothing to do with turkeys, as far as I know, unless he had some strange relationship with them. But Bernard Matthews has a direct connection.
Do dinosaurs have lips?
Of course they do. How would they put on lipstick if they didn't?
You're right, actually, I haven't thought it through.
Right. Clement wants his bonus point. Give it to him. Linda keeps the subject. She has 35 seconds. Still with you on turkeys, Linda, starting now.
These food items are nutritious and delicious. Just one portion contains a whole course of antibiotics. I live almost exclusively on them and haven't had a sore throat in years. I think I'll just say someone's name. George Eliot. Can I have a bonus point?
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation.
Probably.
There's
most
a long
likely.
time to say George Eliot.
It probably was, wasn't it? Is there a wrong time to say the greatest English novelist? I don't think so.
When you're talking about turkeys, probably yes.
She loved a turkey burger, did George?
Yeah, she used to swear by them.
Oh, she was a bugger for them, honestly.
Yeah.
She used to get through a box a day, honestly. Yeah. When she wrote Daniel Deronda, it was turkey, turkey, turkey all day.
But there were no turkey burgers in those days.
No, because she ate them all.
And I'm sure they weren't in boxes either. Well said, Paul. You got the subject. You've got 19 seconds. Turkeys starting now.
There is, of course, a feeling that perhaps we shouldn't eat birds and we should all become vegetarian, I suppose. I mean, look at...
Graham challenge.
With some hesitation and repetition of...
Yes, there was a bit of a hesitation, yes, Graham. So you've got him with 12 seconds on turkeys starting now.
If turkeys are so delicious, why do we eat them once a year? It seems unusual. You know what I mean? Because most things you like, you'd go and get again. But turkeys, no. You just buy them once a year. I'll say that again.
Paul challenge.
Repetition of the annual event once a year.
Oh, you're right, yeah.
But actually, people do eat them. You can buy them now all the year round.
Can you?
Yes.
Fascinate me. Let me get a pen.
Right. 1 second for you, Paul, on turkeys starting now.
Bernard Matthews.
So at the end of that round, Paul Merton was speaking as a whistle game next to one. He's just ahead of Clement Freud, followed by Linda Smith and Graham Norton. And Paul, it's your turn to begin as well. The subject now is clock watching. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I spent many years working for the civil service, and I indulged in a great deal of clock watching while working for that Hesketh.
Right, Graham challenge.
Was there a repetition of working?
Yes, there was. Worked for the... No, you worked the first time, didn't you?
Yeah.
But there wasn't.
No.
Thanks for answering that question.
Yeah.
You worked the first time and working.
I spent many years working.
That's what I said, yes. And
So he said working
time.
twice.
They said working again.
All right. I say working again.
Yeah. Yeah, too right he repeated working.
Again, right. 54... Graham, 54 seconds.
Excuse me, is Clement making the decisions now?
Yes, he is.
He made that decision, yes, definitely.
Is he working you with his foot?
I don't know. It's when he works me with his hand that I begin to worry. 54 seconds, Graham, with you. Clock watching starting now.
Clock watching is a great hobby. It's certainly easier than train spotting or bird watching because you don't have to leave the house. You can just put it on the wall, sit in a chair. It's rather like television, but without a remote control, because it just works itself. The little hand goes round, sometimes the big hand goes round. Then, of course...
Paul said, so I know...
Repetition of hand.
36 seconds, clock watching with you, Paul, starting now.
And as the week progressed, I think to myself, God, what is the time? And I'd look up at the clock and I think, it's 9:05 Monday morning. This is going on for a number of hours before I get to the weekend, which was always my favourite part of the 7 days, because then at last I could be...
Clement challenge.
Wasn't that a hesitation?
No, definitely.
From here, it sounded like a hesitation.
I thought it sounded like Paul talking.
Well, he kept going with a fluency over that rubbish, but it was fluent. 19 seconds, clock watching starting now.
Well, Nicholas, I think you're the last person to point out when somebody's talking rubbish, if I may say so. Your chairmanship of this programme since 1967 has been an absolute farrago. Your decisions are...
Linda challenge.
Deviation. Where's the clock watching?
Just a minute.
That was a very quick response from Paul there, which got him out of mischief there. So, Paul, another point, half a second. No, not. 8 seconds to go, clock watching starting now.
My father used to work in a clock-watching factory, and what he would do is he would make the timepiece and then watch...
Clement challenge.
2 woods.
Yes, there were 2 woods. Yes, wood. And, Clement, you got him with 2 seconds to go on clock watching starting now.
More fun than cock watching. Okay, less fun.
With deviation, it can't be more fun, can it?
Yeah.
What, clock watching is more fun than cock watching? Yeah. Well, I mean, with a cock, you don't have to put it back an hour at the winter time, I suppose. Or do you? No, I can't see how clock watching can be more fun than cock watching.
I suppose it depends on your attitude and your...
To cocks and clocks?
Yes. Yeah. Some people prefer cocks, some people clocks.
And chicken and turkey.
That's right, you're saying. Maybe some people don't like to go out of doors, but you have to watch a cock watching if you go out of doors, don't you? Clock watching, you stay indoors most of the time.
Unless you specialise in watching Big Ben.
Yes, that's right. I don't think he was deviating within the rules of just a minute.
Really?
Yes.
Just in the rules of everyday life?
That's it. Half a second, Clement. Clock watching starting now.
Tick-tock.
Clement was speaking as the whistle went, getting the other points as well in the round. He's creeping up on our leader, Paul Merton, followed by Linda Smith and Graham Norton in that order. And Clement, your turn to begin. The subject now is Picasso. Tell us something about Picasso in just a minute, starting now.
Picasso was actually named Pablo Ruiz, R-U-I-Z, and changed his name to Picasso when he became famous and started painting. I met him when he was in Vallauris running a pottery, and every afternoon he would go to the workshop, and with the back of a paintbrush, he would put a P on the rear side of every saucer, which increased the value thereof by a factor of over 100. He was a greedy and avaricious man. He was enormously rich and never gave anybody else any money, and was passionately interested in the British Stock Exchange. He held shares in many companies, one of which being IC Industries.
Graham challenge.
You know, I could be wrong.
Well,
I'll try it.
Bold,
it's brave. I think a repetition of I.
Well, he did say, I met him right earlier on, yes, and now it's IC, yes. IC Industries. So it is correct. So it's 12 seconds with you, Graham, on Picasso starting now.
Picasso, genius painter, or an example of care in the community. What was going on there? Was he just drunk? Do you know what I mean? And people pay a lot of money for it. I say hurrah for the invention of the camera. Because then...
So Graham Norton with other points, including one for speaking as the whistle went, as a move forward. He's equal in third place with Linda Smith, just a little way behind Clement Freud, who's a point or two behind our leader, Paul Merton. And Linda, your turn to begin. The subject, lighthouses. Tell us something about lighthouses in this game starting now.
Lighthouses are very tall buildings with lots of stairs and no disabled access whatsoever. I don't think that's a very good thing. There is a beautiful lighthouse here in Southwold. I stayed in a hotel a while ago and I could see the lighthouse light going round all the time in the night. It was like being in the slowest discotheque in the world. Or perhaps it was God calling last orders by flicking the light off and on. I don't know. But a lighthouse is a dreadful place to live if you've forgotten something when you go upstairs, because you've got a very long way to climb down again. So it's a very good idea to not say very quite so very many times.
Oh, you tell us.
Sadly, repetition of very.
I know, they almost
Do you
let you
think
get away
so?
with it.
Yes.
Definitely.
I thought I got away with it.
But I hadn't noticed until you then said I shouldn't repeat very.
I know. You should have gone on with that style and panache that you have, Linda, and you might have got away with it. But there are 17 seconds still available, and Lighthouses with you, Paul, now, starting now.
One of the lightest houses I ever lived in was 24 Albumen Terrace. I bought the house from Clement Freud. He said to me, "You'll always have a wonderful time here," and I weighed it. And it came out in the most extraordinary figure. I think it was 35 kilograms, which you will agree for something that is where you live.
Well, we're now moving, unfortunately, into the last round. That's better, because the audience we had for the first show, of course, it was a long time ago now, but they didn't give that lovely warm groan when I made that remark. So you've obviously enjoyed
They're
yourself.
hoping to get a bed for the night.
So we're going to the final round with Linda Smith and Graham Norton equal in third place. Few points behind Clement Freud, who is also a few points behind our leader, who is Paul Merton. But Graham, it's your turn to begin. Now, the subject is my motto. Tell us something about my motto in just a minute, starting now.
My motto is, a problem shared is gossip. And isn't that a lovely thing to live by? Yes, when at work people are boring you out of your mind with their dreary difficulties, you can be thinking, but I can tell... Was that the rep? Anyway, I'll keep going.
Graham!
Damn, they heard my inner monologue.
Don't draw attention to it. Keep going and they'll be generous and let you get away with it. But Linda challenged.
Yes, repetition and hesitation.
Hesitation,
So that's
right.
2 points to me. Hurrah!
No. 42 seconds, Linda. 1 point to you. My motto starting now.
My motto is, if your ears are burning, your head's on fire. It's a great rule to live by in life. And I always check every morning to see if those means of hearing things are, in fact, alight in an incendiary fashion, perhaps a way that might impair my ability to use them for the purpose for which they were intended. Luckily, this morning, that was not, in fact, the case with me. So that's another day I live with all my senses intact. What a blessing that is, for which I am very grateful. And I really, sincerely mean that to whoever put that situation in the place that it was for me on this very day in this life that I am living so happily here amongst the good people of Southwold, whom I've come to think of as friends. I love the way their children run in and out of the show without any parental discipline whatsoever. They are truly...
Linda, we were very mean then. You were going so well that we just let you go. We actually weren't going well, but you were going. And we just let you go. And you actually went for a full minute. So you not only get a point for speaking when the whistle went. We'll give you 2 bonus points for going for the full minute because you always liked it.
Nicholas?
Yeah.
Nicholas, I hate... Did I do a bit of chatting at the beginning of that minute?
Yes, but from the moment she picked it up...
Oh, fair enough.
From the moment she picked it up, she went for a full minute. So she, which is very mean of us.
Does that settle that for you, Graham?
Yes, it does.
So,
Thank you, Linda.
So Graham,
What?
lovely to have you back on the show.
Yeah, but I came 4th.
But a brilliant fourth.
Yeah.
Because it's your contribution that we love
Thank
so
you so
much.
much.
Linda, a superb third. When we are. Clement Freud, a magnificent second. And Paul Merton, out in the lead, a triumphant first. A round of applause for Paul Merton. So, with no more time, it only remains me to say thank you to these 4 delightful players of the game, Paul Merton, Graham Norton, Linda Smith, and Clement Freud. I thank Janet Staplehurst, who's helped me with the score. She's blown her whistle, except for the last one, which I blew. And also we thank our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created the game. And we're very grateful to this lovely audience here in the St. Edmund's Hall. We're indebted to our lovely audience here in Southwold, who've cheered us on our way magnificently. From our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the panel, goodbye. Tune in the next time you play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the Minute Waltz fades away once more, it is my pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but throughout the world, those who listen to us via Radio 4, BBC 7, the Internet, or on the World Service. And also, it's a huge pleasure to welcome to the programme 4 exciting individual and talented personalities. We have back with us 2 people who played the game quite a number of times. We have Scotland's finest and most entertaining broadcaster, Fred MacAulay. We have a multi-talented and ubiquitous Gyles Brandreth. And we have 2 who have not played it quite so often, but there's always a joy to have them here. That lovely actress, comedian and journalist, Maria McErlane, and that very talented comedy performer and also a comedy writer, Nick Revell. Please welcome all 4 of them. As usual, I am going to ask them to speak on a subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Janice Staplehurst, and she's going to help me keep the score, and she'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds are up. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Bonar Hall in that wonderful University of Dundee, or Dundee University as it's usually referred to, in Tayside. And we have a very excited, voracious and vociferous student audience, supplemented by a lot of the good people of Angus and further afield, who've come to cheer us on our way as we start the show this week with Fred MacAulay, and of course we have with our Scottish representative. Fred, the subject is doing 2 things at once. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
I'm sure that I'll win the favour of half the audience when I say that doing 2 things at once is something that women manage to do much better than men. They can listen to a conversation, conduct, chat.
And Gyles is challenged.
A little hesitation.
A little hesitation, yes.
But enough.
Enough? You are going to convince me. All right, Gyles, I will allow that little hesitation. You
see how it's going to be?
You can see how it's going to be, right? And so Gyles gets a point for a correct challenge. He takes over the subject of doing 2 things at once, and there are 48 seconds starting now.
I agree entirely with Fred that this is something that the female of the species is an expert at, and in fact I'm currently on a course organised by my first wife. Do not misunderstand me, I'm still married to her, I just call it that to keep her on her toes, in which she is instructing me in the art of being able to do 2 things at once. I'm learning to do this by not interrupting her, not trying to answer every question before the question has actually been put, and then I found there is a downside to getting in touch with my feminine side, and that is that unfortunately I can no longer park the car. But I am able to rub my tummy and at the same time pat my head. This means that I can simultaneously do 2 totally contrasting yet rather remarkable human endeavours, and I feel quite proud that I've become so adept at this multi-versatility.
Maria has challenged you.
Well, there was a word there that was, in that amongst that flow that I didn't recognise, which was inhuman.
Inhuman?
Yes, I didn't know what that is.
I think he was going at such a pace we would allow an inhuman for an inhuman.
That was what it meant to be, was it?
I imagine it was meant to be that.
Oh, yes. The inhuman is the person who has factor X.
Gyles, another point to you. Got 7 seconds to finish the subject, doing 2 things at once, starting now.
The most difficult sort of accomplishment is to...
Now, Maria, yes.
You've already had a difficult.
Yes, we did have a difficult.
There was hesitation as well. I was trying to do 2 things at once, you see, and I'm not very good at it.
So, Maria, you have a point to correct challenge. And there are 6 seconds for you to tell us something about doing 2 things at once, starting now.
Doing 2 things at once.
Nick Joe.
Hesitation.
Yeah, there was.
I was breathing.
No, you weren't. I must explain to our listeners she was actually demonstrating, and they were absolutely carried away because she stretched herself and she showed her full bosom. Beautiful and wonderful.
That wasn't my full bosom.
It was rather exciting. She was actually showing us 2 things at once.
This is grossly unfair. I'm sitting beside her. I can't see what's going on.
And anyway, Gyles, that isn't my full bosom. My full bosom is in the dressing room behind. I just used half of my bosom tonight.
Well, I think we've had enough about bosoms. I mean, I didn't want to go down. Gyles had the temerity to actually express it, and he got a big round of reaction, so give him a bonus point for that. Nick Revell had a correct challenge of hesitation, and Nick, you've got 4 seconds on doing 2 things at once, starting now.
Doing 2 things at once is something I regret doing at this...
Nick Revell gets a point for that. You were speaking as the whistle went, and so... Nick Revell, will you take the next round? The subject is a parallel universe. That's a tough one, isn't it? Seconds thought, and then you carry on, 60 seconds if you can, starting now.
Parallel universe and how to describe it in just a minute. Well, a job for Stephen Hawking rather than me, but I'll try. Imagine, if you will, the male...
Charles, challenge you.
Yes, I felt a little assistance was needed.
There was here, yeah.
I felt he wanted me.
Well,
I mean,
we
could have gone for deviation, Stephen Hawking without an S, but instead we waited until the hesitation was there, and the momentum had sort of disappeared.
Giles,
I was slowing down.
I know you're a little bit hyper because your train arrived just 2 minutes before we started the recording, but you don't need to lay it on.
I'm as high as a kite, to be honest.
Yes.
It's a combination of Valium, Benzedrine, and rather an amusing person I picked up in Forfar.
It's little wonder he was late if the train came via Forfar.
You have a correct challenge, Giles, of hesitation.
What's the subject again?
You need to be reminded, because it is a tough one. A parallel universe, 50 seconds starting now.
In my parallel universe...
Nick challenged.
I don't want to be pedantic, but I thought there was a little bit of a hesitation there.
Definitely, Charles. You never got it. It got started. Nick, you got it back. 47 seconds, a parallel universe starting now.
According to physicists, subatomic theory...
Fred, challenge.
I know that Gyles and I have been having words this evening, but I think that was rather unfair. I mean, there was a slight hesitation, but he was talking from another universe. I mean, there's bound to be a delay. Even with these wonderful Radio 4 engineers, there's going to be a slight delay.
No, you mean the universe that takes him through Forfar, I think, yes. No, he was a definite hesitation. He's been pretty sharp with you on hesitation already. That was a fair decision on my time. And you've interrupted Nick, who's got another point for that. He's got 45 seconds, a parallel universe, starting now.
A parallel universe is somewhere where things are the same as in this one, except paradoxically not quite similar. Imagine, if you will, a universe like this one, but where just a minute was a program.
Maria, challenged.
Repetition of just a minute.
Stay with me
as I explain on just a minute.
Yes, I did. Yes, no.
Well, listen.
Very well remembered.
My goodness me, your university education's coming wonderfully. 33 seconds, a parallel universe with you now, Maria.
I often feel that a parallel universe is sometimes when you're asleep and dreaming. For instance, last night I dreamt of Nicholas Parsons.
Oh.
That's,
Nick,
well,
okay, so
that's deviation, yeah.
So, what do I decide on that, audience?
Do you want to know more, Nicholas?
Well, I hope it was a devious thought you had with me, Maria. That's all I can say. But
you were teaching me how to drive.
Within the rules of just a minute. Within the rules of just a minute, Maria is entitled to dream about whoever and whatever she likes. So it's not really a devious thought. And if it was devious, well, then it doesn't matter. She wasn't being devious within the rules of just a minute.
No, but she wasn't in a parallel universe.
No.
She was in a dream world.
She was allowing her libido to soak up rather than allowing her subatomic particles to slip sideways.
But Gyles, who's to say a parallel universe isn't the dream world?
I just told you.
Right. I think you should save all that in case you get back in on the subject. Maria, I disagree, because within the rules of just a minute, you can have as many devious thoughts as you like, providing you're not devious within the rules of just a minute. You haven't been. You still have a parallel universe, and you have me if you wanted in your dream. And 23 seconds starting now.
I did have you, and then I woke up because it was a hideous, horrible nightmare. Oh.
You ruined it, Maria.
Oh.
You've lost them, darling. Giles,
I've certainly lost you, haven't I, Nicholas?
Giles, benefit of the doubt to you. In fact, 18 seconds, a parallel universe, Giles, starting now.
I wish to move to a parallel universe where Maria and I can have triplets called Einstein, Wittgenstein, and Helen of Troy. Because between us, we will produce creatures that are so beautiful and wise that everyone would think that, no, this wasn't a parallel universe, this was heaven itself. A very paradise, a paradigm of all that is curious and bizarre, and yet...
So Gyles Brandreth got points in the round, according one for speaking as the whistle went, and has increased his lead over Fred MacAulay and Nick Revell, and almost equal in second place, and McErlane is only 1 point behind them. And so, Gyles, we're with you now to start, and the subject is cake. Tell us something about cake in just a minute, starting now.
Jane Asher was the first truly beautiful woman to sleep in my bed. Maddeningly, I was elsewhere at the time. But she did explain to me the brilliance of cake in all its manifestations, Battenberg, Christmas, sponge. But she said to me, the prince of cake is always Dundee, because it comes from a heritage that is unique. There is to it a quality of fruit, a texture that is just inalienable. There is something when you stir a cake from that particular part of the world that makes you feel magic itself. You don't need to throw in the odd sixpenny piece as you do with a Yuletide cake. No, this is a kind of gâteau for people who have intellect, who have persuasion, who have a quality in their water.
Fred, your light came on, but I didn't hear your buzzer. Let's see if your buzzer's working. Yes, it is working, but the light came on, so I take the challenge, yes?
I feel terrible about this because I was so enjoying Giles's Dundee cake, but there were 2 who's.
Yes, and you have as well. Right, so there we are. So a correct challenge, yes, it was good. But you restrained yourself for 42 seconds, so 18 seconds are available anyway. With you, Fred, on cake starting now.
A man walked into a baker's shop in Paisley and saw a pile of pies and went to grab the one off the top, and the baker said, "Get your hands off the wedding cake." Clearly, this is something that would not occur in a fine city like Dundee, which is Gyles is already...
So, Fred MacAulay, with other points, including one as the whistle went in that round, has moved forward. He's still in second place, and then it's Nick Revell and Maria McErlane. Gyles is leading. And Maria, it's your turn. The subject is the office party. Will you tell us something about that in this game, starting now?
This is the time of year for the office party where you can tell Kevin in accounts just about his hygiene problem and photocopy your bottom should you choose to. You can also use it to blackmail many of your colleagues by videotaping their antics whilst in the stationery cupboard. Of course, they may choose to take out a contract on you, but it's a lovely way to think, every day I go onto that boring office.
Gyles challenge.
Hesitation?
Yes.
Major hesitation, I think, but either side, it doesn't matter because it's correct, and you have the subject, and you have 38 seconds, and you have the office party starting now.
When I went to the office party, I was excited to find that Ricky Gervais was actually there, celebrating the success of the series named after, well, I can say it, can't I? The Office. He and all the other people celebrating were behaving in a most
Nick Revell challenge.
I think there was a repetition of
Celebrating,
wasn't it?
yes.
Could have been.
Celebrating, yes.
Could have been.
Yeah. So, Nick, another point to you. You're in on the office party with 21 seconds starting now.
One of the worst things about being self-employed is that when you have an office party, you're the only one who goes. On the other hand, there is the advantage that you're always certain that you're going to pull if you want to. I don't have a photocopier, but I've just got one of those new phones so that I can take pictures of my genitals with that. Soon...
I think the whistle came just in time. But you were speaking as the whistle went, and again another point, and you've moved forward, but you're still in third place. But it doesn't matter. I mean, we loved it. And Nick, it's your turn to begin as well. The subject is Latin. And this academic atmosphere. What a wonderful subject to talk about. Latin. Tell us something about it. Just a minute if you can, starting now.
A mo, a mus, a mut, a monk, a mink, a minibus, as John Lennon conjugated comically the Latin verb to love, proving that Latin, which is often thought of as a daunting, dusty and dull subject and indeed language, can be fun. Caesar adsum jam forte, Pompey adorat. Nonsense, of course, but a macaronic gag. And then there's Catullus, who we learnt at school. He did a poem about getting ready for a party and sending his invitation.
It was such lovely stuff, though. Right. I think it was Gyles who challenged first. 28 seconds, Gyles, on Latin, starting now.
Julius Caesar, the Roman geezer, squashed his face in a lemon squeezer. For many years, I thought that the equivalent of in loco parentis was my dad's an engine driver. But then the teachers that I had at school who instructed me in this subject were not as learned as they might have been. I went to a bizarre academy where when they thought they were teaching Latin, actually it was a kind of curious double Dutch, because the fellow came from Amsterdam and spoke not a word of that ancient Roman tongue. No, Greek.
Well, Gyles got another point then and has increased his lead at the end of the round, and he also begins the next round. Gyles, a senior moment. Oh, it's got a little frissons in the audience. There's some who've experienced it, no doubt. But will you talk on the subject, Gyles? 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
A senior moment is the description we give to that time when people of riper years find it a little bit difficult to remember what they want to and say the word craft, being an acronym for can't remember a flipping thing. I suffered from this even when I was a junior person, and as an actor I appeared in the famous Danish play by William Shakespeare and forgot my lines. I went on as Hamlet came off as omelette because they threw eggs at me. It was humiliating, and it was the effect of actually not having the proper recall that eventually now I have reached seniority.
Nick Jones, yes?
I know it's spiteful, but there was a little sort
No,
of...
it's the game. It's the game.
No, it was spiteful. That's what I'm saying.
No,
I was trying to be spiteful.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't think so. I mean, the pace he goes, his hesitations are a little smaller than others, but it was a correct hesitation. So, Nick, you have the subject, and you have 25 seconds. Tell us something about a senior moment starting now.
I almost had a senior moment then when I couldn't remember what the subject was, but it was a senior moment, and I'll tell you something else. The subject is a senior moment.
Giles challenged.
And the subject has been repeated twice.
And the subject, you repeated subject.
Oh!
Yes.
Oh, I see. When you said you could repeat the subject, I thought you meant repeat the subject. Oh.
Giles, a correct challenge. Tell us something about a senior moment, or more about the senior moment. 17 seconds, starting now.
More recently, when I assailed the role of the Chinese waiter in King Lear and came on in Act 2, Scene 3, and attempted to say, "Come hither, ho."
Maria challenge.
How recently was this, Gyles? When you say more recently, I don't think it was recently.
Well, earlier I was talking about my junior moments. I'm now talking about my senior moments, hence I've moved from Hamlet to King Lear.
So, when did you play King Lear?
Maria, there was no Chinese waiter in King Lear.
No.
There is. That's the whole point. He comes on in Act 2, Scene 3, when Lear calls to him. He says, "Come hither, ho."
Give Giles a point for the round of applause that he was searching for, and Maria a point for a correct challenge, and she takes over the subject of a senior moment with 10 seconds starting now.
I had a recent senior moment when I found myself in the middle of the stairs, not being able to remember if I was going up or going down. Two goings!
Fred got in.
I hadn't a clue by a buzz, but thanks for the... Two goings, that'll do me fine.
Sometimes if you give it away, sometimes they can overlook it. But Fred got in with 3 seconds on a senior moment starting now.
I sincerely hope that my senior moments are going to be...
So Fred McErlane got points in that round, and he's got more. He's keeping up on Gyles, who's still in the lead. He's a little way ahead of Nick Revell, and he's a little way ahead of Maria McErlane. That's the situation. And Maria, it is your turn to begin. The subject is making ends meet. Gosh. It can all be tied into your dream, can't it? But tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Making ends meet is something I think about every time I put on my trousers, when I lie on the bed and can't even get the middle to meet, let alone the beginning. Oh dear, this is all rubbish, isn't it?
There was hesitation. And prior to that, there was deviation. She is the
Deviation?
slimmest, trimmest, most dainty creature I've ever seen. She could slip into any pair of trousers.
I can't...
Can I tell you, Maria dresses so well and so quickly.
Well, obviously, we've all been in your dreams, Maria. Yes, we give you hesitation, and but not the other thing, and all that flattery, really. Making ends meet with you now, Gyles, and 48 seconds starting now.
Making ends meet is a disaster when it comes to a sandwich recipe, because the whole thing is inside out. What you want to do, of course, is to make the inside meet.
Nick Revell challenge.
Well, I felt that the was sort of sliding away from you a bit, but also I didn't know what the hell you were on about.
But I can give you hesitation, though.
Thank you.
Right, and you have 38 seconds on making ends meet, Nick, starting now.
It's never been a problem for me, because I don't care if I haven't got any money and I can't make ends meet. Then I'll just sell the big issue like Gyles Brandreth was when he came in this morning. He's an example to us all. You just keep going, and if you need to think for a moment, you just...
No, Nick,
no.
Stick to your own routine.
Yeah, I know.
Stick to your own
I
routine.
know.
Leave Gyles
Imitation.
to his. Yes, imitation. Gyles, you had hesitation, and you have 22, so you had a challenge of hesitation. 22 seconds, making ends meet, starting now.
My financial advisor is a psychotic by the name of Ebenezer Everard Scrooge, a curious name that he uses, and I don't know quite why he is called this, except that he is somebody who is both perverse and vile.
Nick, you challenge.
I'm sorry, I think there were two names in there.
There were two names in there. Yes.
I'm terribly sorry.
Actually, there were three names, Ebenezer, and then De Vere, and then Scrooge,
But you repeated the word name,
I did.
which you do as the name of soap. And so Nick Revell, who's got back in with only 10 seconds ago, making ends meet, starting now.
Making ends meet is easy as long as you cut your cloth to meet your pocket, or whatever they say in...
Maria, challenge.
That made no sense at all. Cut your cloth to meet your pocket.
Well, it did in a sort of poetic sense, didn't it?
In a poetic sense, it did.
Really? That's poetry, where you come from?
All right,
I can't afford a coat, I just have the pocket.
I know he got his metaphors muddled, but I agree with you. So that is deviation from the metaphor as we understand it, or English as we like to comprehend it. So, Maria, you've got in with 5 seconds to go on making ends meet, starting now.
It's very difficult to make ends meet at this time of the year because we all go way over our budgets.
So Maria McErlane was again speaking as the whistle went, and she has moved forward. She's almost equal with Nick Revell and Fred MacAulay. They're all very close in a sort of second place behind Gyles Brandreth, who's still in the lead. And we're moving into the final round, and it's back with Gyles to begin, and the subject is origami. So a little moment to think about it, Gyles. Then will you go on origami, if you can? 60 seconds starting now.
Origami is the ancient Chinese practice of paper folding.
Nick challenged.
Sorry, matey, it's I believe it's Japanese, so that would be
is indeed,
deviation.
yes.
I'm afraid I don't notice people's racial characteristics, but if this is something you're hung up on, I'm amazed the BBC want to broadcast this kind of thing, but there we are, fine.
So you've got a correct challenge and a round of applause as well, almost deserves 2 points, but you have the subject, 56 seconds, Nick Revell, origami, starting now.
Origami is the ancient Japanese art of paper folding. It is very old and...
Gyles got it back immediately, yes.
I don't really want it back because I know bugger all about it.
Anyway, you have origami in 50 seconds starting now.
Robert Harbin wrote a marvelous book on this subject some years ago in which he enabled us to create an amazing range of artifacts, objects, indeed buildings, using forms of tissue, so that you could actually build an Eiffel Tower, then set it to sail. And if you didn't want to do that, you could actually put a match to it and light your cigar. This is the versatility of origami. You can also try doing it yourself if you want to liven up your sex life. Because, in fact, if you look at one of these little model books...
Maria challenged.
Deviation.
Oh, yeah, but on what grounds, madam?
Livening up your sex life with...
origami, I don't think would liven up anybody's sex life.
Well, how do you know, Nicholas?
I'm trying to help you, actually, my love.
I'm saying it's devious to use paper animals to liven up your sex life.
Yes, and I'm agreeing with you, Maria, because I want you to have the subject.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
You brought up the animals.
He said animals. Giles
He was
said
talking
animals.
about all kinds of objects in an abstract way.
It was, I think, devious, and as well as the fact that you can't do all those things
Have
with
I
origami.
slipped into a parallel universe where Maria McErlane is bringing up animals?
No, she's just a dreamer. She
McErlane.
lives, and the dream went sour, but she's got a correct challenge. 21 seconds, origami, Maria, starting now.
I will now make something out of origami.
Fred challenged.
Origami.
I made a mistake. I corrected it very quickly.
It was too late.
It's,
but
I'm
anyway.
so going off you, Nicholas.
But anyway, we're on radio. Demonstrations.
I know, that's why I thought it'd be funny to do a demonstration on radio.
Maybe origami is the Chinese paper folder.
Look! Tell us something about origami. There are 17...
What is it?
It's a bird. Not very good
I
one.
must explain to our listeners that the fun that's happening now is Maria took her piece of paper, threw it, shared it up, and that was the noise. She threw it over there, and Fred looked down his nose at it. He's got the subject of origami. 17 seconds starting now.
Origami can be found in Chapter 3 of the Good Sex Guide, but only if you pull page 47 out and fold it up into a model of the Eiffel Tower and set fire to it, sail it down the Seine, and who knows where it might end up, perhaps in the bordello of a Parisian...
Nick challenge.
I hate to do it to you, but it was hesitation,
It was
wasn't it?
hesitation. Nick, and you've cleverly got in with 2 seconds to go on origami starting now.
Origami, folding paper.
So, as I said before, this was to be the last round, which it is, and the final situation is, well, they all gave such value and were all so lovely, but Maria McErlane did finish only just in 4th place. She was just behind our 2 equal second, well, that would be 3rd place, Maria, because the other 2 in 2nd place equal. Nick Revell and Red MacAulay both were equal, and they were 7 or 8 points behind our leader, Gyles Brandreth. So, Gyles, we say, you are the winner this week. So, it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 delightful players of the game, Fred MacAulay, Maria McErlane, Gyles Brandreth and Nick Revell. I also thank Janet Staplehurst for helping me with the score and blowing her whistle so delicately. We thank our producer, who is Chris Neal. We are indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this game. And we are most grateful to this lovely audience here at the Bonner Hall at Dundee University, who cheered us on our way most magnificently. From that audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and our panel, goodbye. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. You're lovely. Yes, hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the Minute Waltz fades away once more, it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but throughout the world, but also to welcome to the program 4 exciting, individual, and diverse personalities who once again are going to show their verbal dexterity, their creative ingenuity and flair as they try and talk on a subject that I give them, and try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those 4 intrepid people are, sitting on my left, Fred MacAulay and Maria McErlane, and sitting on my right, Gyles Brandreth and Nick Revell. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Janet Staplehurst, who's going to help me keep the score, and she'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds are up. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the Bonner Hall in the University of Dundee, on Tayside, that great university which has sprung from small beginnings now to being a major university in Scotland. And they have a great principal who's leading the audience here, and a lot of students, a lot of people from Angus and other places further afield who are going to cheer us on our way as we begin the show with Maria McErlane. And the subject, Maria, is cold turkey. Tell us something about cold turkey, starting now.
Revenge is a dish best served cold. Sadly, the same can't be said of...
No, Now, we have a very difficult situation here, because I have a light that comes on for the first buzzer to be pressed, and 2 lights came on together. It's never happened before. What do I do? I think I'll ask Janet, you judge. I think it was Nick's almost infinitesimally earlier, was it? Right. So, Nick Revell, we grant you the benefit of the doubt that it was your light was first. Yours is the challenge. What is it?
I believe hesitation.
It was hesitation, Nick. You have the subject of cold turkey. You get a point for a correct challenge, and you have 53 seconds to take it over, starting now.
Cold Turkey, one of the greatest singles by John Lennon, talking about his heroin addiction in a rock and roll style. But I prefer it in a sandwich with cranberry sauce on the 27th of December. On Boxing Day, which is also my birthday, I prefer not cold...
Maria challenged.
Prefers.
Yes, that's right.
I'm just so positive, you see. It's just, I prefer this, I like that.
I prefer this, I like that would have been okay.
I know. I know.
Maria, correct challenge, so you have cold turkey back with
Nicholas,
you.
can I just say, I feel I'm getting penalised for having big breaths in between my things.
Sorry, I thought you said big breasts.
Nicholas, you are an old ham who milked that like mad.
I didn't. I honestly thought you said that, and I really have what is known in professional terms. I've corpsed myself now.
And she's only 16.
Maria, you have the subject of cold...
Frankly, I don't want anything more to do with you, Nicholas.
Darling, last time we were here, I was in one of your dreams, and I've never forgotten it. There are 37 seconds available. Cold turkey is back with you, Maria, starting now.
Cold turkey is also the term used when people come off very serious drugs, or clucking, as I think they say in Narcotics Anonymous circles. Myself, I have never clucked. Nicholas.
Gyles, your challenge.
There was hesitation as she turned and looked lovingly at you.
Maria, there isn't time to flirt.
Well, there's certainly less time for you than there is for me, Nicholas.
Yes, all right. A good remark. Give her a bonus point for that, because the audience enjoyed it. Shows you how generous I am. Gyles, yes, hesitation. 26 seconds. Cold turkey starting now.
When I played the part of Dr. Loolittle in the musical of the same name...
Nick challenge.
Loolittle? What was it about a man who could talk to animals in a chemical toilet shop? Here, little hamster, come here. The Loolittle will be just right for you.
I was about to explain this was an aquatic version of it. We did it underwater.
Okay, just checking.
Right. I didn't think you got as far. I think you should have established that right from the start. Otherwise, it does sound like deviation, and which I have to grant it, therefore, Nick, within the rules of just a minute. So, Nick Revell, you have 22 seconds on cold turkey starting now.
Cold turkey is not as good as curried turkey, but back to John Lennon and cold turkey.
Gyles,
John Lennon, of course.
John Lennon, you repeated it,
John
yes.
Lennon.
And Gyles got in first.
Yeah.
16 seconds, Gyles. Another point to you. And cold turkey's with you starting now.
When I essayed this particular role, the only character I did not get on with very well was the person who played the turkey, for she was cold towards me. Her name was Tilly Taylor, and the reason that she did not like me was because I was playing the lead and she was playing merely this bird, and she had this dressing room up at the top of this...
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion was Giles Brandreth, who has now 3. Nick Revell and Maria McErlane have 2. Fred MacAulay hasn't, he's spoken, but he hasn't been not within the show. And, well, it's early days. Giles, we'd like you to take the next round. The subject is People Like Me. 60 seconds, as usual, starting now.
People like me...
And Nick challenge.
Deviation, there's nobody like him.
Nick, we'll give you a bonus point because everybody enjoyed that particular remark of yours, but I don't think you can have it for deviation or hesitation or anything like that. So, Giles, you have a point, of course, Giles, for being interrupted, and you have 59 seconds. People like me, starting now.
People like me love words. We agree with a philosopher who said, no matter how eloquently a dog may bark, he cannot tell you that his parents were poor but honest. People like me believe that a slight inclination of the cranium is as adequate as a spasmodic movement of one optic to an equine quadruped utterly devoid of any visionary capacity. community, when really what we are attempting to say is the nod is as good as a wink to a blind horse. People like me, I find it hard to believe. I used to be liked by those who were interested in knitting and wool, fetishists of a kind. They seem to have an enthusiasm for me, but people like me, is that true? When I was a member of Parliament, I found thousands hated me. Indeed, I united an entire community. 37,000 individuals got up on the self-same day to say that they did not like me. They came to the polls. They kicked me in the goonies. It was humiliating. To say that people like me is a contradiction in terms. When you have been an elected representative in the Mother of Parliaments, you know that people like me is not a phrase that can be uttered by normal human beings. Of course, it could not possibly be in the whole history of
So that verbal tour de force by Gyles kept him going till the whistle went. He actually went for 59 seconds because he was interrupted after 1 second, so he did get a point then. Because normally if you go for 60 seconds, you get a bonus point. I think we should give him the bonus, don't you? One for speaking as the whistle went, and a bonus point for not being interrupted. And even though he did actually repeat one or two things, but they let him generously go because they knew you were loving it, and he was loving it himself. I could tell that from his face. And Fred, it's your turn to begin. The subject is the school disco. Oh, that's got a little reaction, didn't it? We all know what school discos are about. Talk about them, Fred, if you can. 60 seconds, starting now.
Sadly, when I was a young man just venturing on the great
Nick, you
perilous.
The great...
Hesitation.
I've just lost the ability to speak now.
Right, yes. Oh, it happens. 55 seconds. The school disco with you, Fred. With you, Nick Neville, starting now.
I used to hate the school disco. Firstly, it was a disco, and secondly, it was at school. Two of the most horrific experiences that you could have in a social situation put together. You had to spend all week stealing booze from the local supermarket, pretending you were going to get completely legless so that all your mates could have a laugh because they'd be legless as well. And if you...
And Giles.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
I forgot the repetition.
Yes, I forgot the repetition. The audience are concentrating. Did you notice that? Oh. Legless. Giles, you were in first. 35 seconds. The school disco starting now.
At my school, we always had a costume disco where we went in different outfits. I usually came dressed as a handbag so that the girls would dance around me. I had a second sort of outfit that I wore, which involved me wearing two left shoes.
Nick challenged.
Yeah, it was repetition, but it was wrong, because it was wearing and wearing.
No, it was outfit.
No.
Outfit.
He was where he usually came dressed the first time and wearing the second time.
Yes.
He's quite clever at this, you know.
I know, he's...
I know. Two outfits.
Almost slippery.
Two outfits.
I know it's too late, though, don't I?
All right. Sorry.
Right, so, Giles, you've still got the subject. You've got an incorrect challenge, another point to you, 13 seconds, starting now.
The school that I went to was called Bedale. It was in Hampshire.
Maria, you've challenged.
Two outfits
Yes,
earlier.
you were. Before you were challenged by Nick Revell, you did say outfit twice, so you're entitled to hold back and spot it and not come in too soon, so everyone has a fair crack.
But
so
the outfits were different. One of them was a handbag.
You're being too devious now for the show. Right, Maria, you have a correct challenge in 11 seconds on the school disco, starting now.
I have terrible memories of the school disco, standing in the sidelines, waiting for that...
Nick challenge.
In the sidelines?
Yes, you can be
rather
in the
inelegant, I thought. On the sidelines.
I wasn't a very elegant child.
Not really poetic.
No, it wasn't. Oh. Maria, you have 8 seconds on the school disco, starting now.
10cc's I'm Not in Love was always the last song to be played at the school disco, and I would be vomiting with dry cider all...
So, Maria McErlane, speaking as whistle went, gained the extra point again. She's now equal with Nick Revell in second place. They're 3 points behind James Brandreth, and they're just a little way ahead of Fred MacAulay. Gyles, you take the next round. The subject now is dog training. Tell us something about dog training in this game, starting now.
At our home, we have a considerable number of dogs, including a mongrel who thinks he's called Down Boy, and a very sophisticated French poodle named Fido, spelt P-H-Y-D-A-U-X. They have all been trained by a professional in this particular craft, though the lady concerned unfortunately had a speech impediment, so that when she said sit, what happened was quite untoward.
Revell for challenge.
It wasn't hesitation, it was timing. I'm sorry.
Well, why did you challenge?
Because I was allowing the...
Get on your microphone, could you please?
I was allowing the competition to get before the art there. I
think it was almost a correct challenge.
Well, it was a correct challenge, but at the same time, aesthetically... I should have let it go, and then he could have ridden the laugh,
Listen, Nick,
see.
I've given the benefit of the doubt to Maria on a marginal judgment to Maria and to Fred. So now, on a marginal judgment, you have the benefit of the doubt, and you have the subject of dog training with 36 seconds starting now.
Dog training is not something I'm directly familiar with, but some friends of mine who have a mad black Labrador in Australia called Algernon have a very serious problem and need for dog training. Algernon eats toasters.
Gyles challenged.
We've heard Algernon before.
So, Gyles, you've got your dog training back and you have 23 seconds. Tell us more about it starting now.
When I began to attempt it myself, I used a bull whip, but then realized I was confusing the poor animals, and so now I treat them entirely with kindness. I wrinkle up my nose, get down on all fours, and give little woofing sounds.
Maria challenged.
Deviation.
Within the rules of just a minute, how do you...
Wait, wrinkling up his nose, getting down on all fours and giving little woofing sounds.
It's a very devious idea, it's a very devious thought, it's a devious image, you see, Maria, but he wasn't deviating within the rules of just a minute, which
I must say, though, Nicholas, sorry to interrupt, I must say it sounds better when Maria says it.
So, really...
I do think it is deviation from dog training. That's not necessary to do all of that to train a dog.
On the other hand, Maria, Gyles is an unusual person. That maybe is the way he trains his dog. Gyles, you have the benefit of the doubt. So you've all had the benefit of the doubt now, and you have 11 seconds on dog training starting now.
Mrs. Barbara Woodhouse was, for me, the woman who taught me all that I need to know about dog training. She was a lady who had style.
Yes, Maria, you challenged.
2 torts.
There were 2 torts. Well done. Well listened, Maria. And, Maria, you've got in with 4 seconds to go on dog training starting now.
You can't teach an old dog new tricks, and Nicholas is living proof of that.
So Maria McErlane, again speaking as the whistle went, is catching up on our leader Gyles Brandreth. She's only 3 points behind him. She's just ahead of Nick Revell and Brad MacAulay in that order. And Nick Revell, your turn to begin. The subject, buried treasure. 60 seconds starting now.
Pieces of 8, doubloons, emeralds, rubies as big as a man's hand, shouts the rag and bone man touring the streets of Knightsbridge. No, I'm just kidding, just getting you into the mood for one of the most exciting stories concerning buried treasure ever written by a Scotsman, Robert Louis Stevenson, Treasure Island. And I tell you, it happened to me once. There I was, waiting tables at the Admiral Benbow, and I got this map from a drunken pirate. Off we sailed with a couple of cabin boys and a squire and a load of muskets and stuff. We got onto the island. We found the place on the map. We met a marooned person who was painted blue and red because 2 tankers had collided and the paint had gone everywhere. And then we realised we'd forgotten the spade. And oh, blimey. All the way back we had to go to get the spade, and when we got there... Oh, no! Dear cousin.
They were so generous, they let you go through that longest pause we've ever had in just a minute. And then when you come back in and got your breath, you come back with the same words. But Gyles, you press first, yes. We can't allow 2 spades. So you've got it in, and only 5 seconds to go. Right, buried. I know, but it is the rules of just a minute, isn't it? 5 seconds, Gyles. Buried treasure starting now.
The day we buried treasure was a sad one for me. He was such a lovely dog. My favourite chihuahua.
So Gyles Brandreth, speaking as a whistle when getting that extra point, has increased his lead. But what I forgot to say, Nick, you get a bonus point for that great tirade of yours, which the audience loved when he was interrupted. So you get a bonus point in there. And we're moving forward, and it's Fred MacAulay, your turn to speak. Oh, a lovely Scottish subject here. Oh, right. I knew all about this in my Glasgow days. Look and Peely Wally. That's the subject. And for the Sassenachs who are listening in, that's the, everybody who's not Scottish. including people in China and India and everywhere else. I won't say what it is, because otherwise I take away from their thing. Right. Fred.
Yes, you just said everything I was going to say.
I know. And I realised I was stealing your thunder.
I've only got about 18 seconds to go.
I'm stealing your thunder. I'm very sorry. Fred, it's looking peely-wally, and you have 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
As everybody in this audience knows, it's unusual for someone to look peely-wally because nobody ever looks peely-wally in full. They only ever look a wee bit peely-wally. Because that is what you say when someone is looking slightly under the weather. They may not be fit for work. They may be phoning from home. Two maybes.
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation.
Oh, right.
Charles. Yes, right. So you have the subject.
I got away with the maybes then.
Right. 40 seconds still available. Looking peely-wally, starting now.
One of the reasons that I'm glad that I'm not Prime Minister is that after a few years, whoever does aspire to this post is told that they are looking whenever they come to Scotland peely-wally. Inevitably, this is the price you pay for leadership. I, of course, was very loyal in my day. When Mr. Major became the leader of my party, I went grey overnight. Then, when William Hague became the leader, I started to go bald. I was only grateful that Anne Widdecombe did not succeed in her ambition. Because then, not only would have I looked peely-wally, but I would also have required to have some...
Fred challenged.
Some time ago, there were two leaders.
Yes, that's right. You had
in fact,
two leaders.
It was a long time ago.
But they generously let you go because they enjoyed it, but they did come in latterly with two leaders, and quite right, Fred, 10 seconds on looking peely-wally, starting now.
Amongst my friends at school, we had different skills, but none more so than Lee Wally, who demonstrated what he was able to do every day on the way back when he would stand himself...
Well, do we say there that Fred MacAulay was saved by the whistle? Anyway, he was speaking as a whistle when he gained an extra point for that. He's now almost equal with Nick Revell in third place. Maria McErlane in second place. Gyles Brandreth still in the lead. And Maria, your turn to begin. The subject, the youth of today. There's quite a lot of them in this audience here at Dundee University, or the University of Dundee as they prefer. Would you tell us... Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
Youth is wasted on the young, so they say. I always feel that maybe age is squandered by the elderly as well. What's wrong with the youth of yesterday or the youth of tomorrow? Youth basically is overrated. As Nicholas told me earlier on, it's... Oh, no, I can't really...
Charles, I don't know what you were going to say. She turns towards you.
No, I know, but I was going to say something which is very rude, to reveal a gentleman's age.
Well, that's absurd.
Well,
is it?
Yes. I never told you what my age was. Nobody knows it.
No, but
Nicholas is younger than springtime.
No, but someone had painted it outside the university.
We are indeed in a 30-mile-per-hour limit, yes.
Gyles, you challenged.
Yes, hesitation.
Yes, indeed, right. You have how many seconds? You have 42 seconds, the youth of today, starting now.
The youth of today, you can't beat them. That's the problem. No discipline. In my day, the role model was Billy Bunter at Greyfriars School. Now, there was the kind of youth of today that we should see. Somebody who was overweight, dishonest, and thoroughly abused as a child. But who's he abused by? Oh, blast.
Yes, Fred,
repetition of the word abuse.
Yes, there was too much abusing going on. So, Fred, you have 20 seconds. You tell us something about the youth of today, starting now.
I've seen Maria McErlane's shopping list, and the top of the list... It's so long since I've played this game, it really is.
No, you must come back more often, Fred. Right.
Say that like you mean it?
Giles, you have 15 seconds on the youth of today, starting now.
Oh, crikey, said the fat owl as Mr. Quelch came into the room brandishing his cane.
I think there was a fat in his previous visit to this subject.
Billy Bunter.
Repetition.
Well, listen, Nick, you haven't been for a time, but you're getting the hang of it now, listening with sharp intention, sharp, sharp, I was going to say sharp ears, but that wouldn't be literal with sharp acclaim, right? 50. It's lovely when you talk rubbish, really. It makes me so happy. It makes me... Not a senior moment, it's just rubbish. Right, it's 10 seconds on the youth of today, starting now.
The youth of today, I hate them. All they do is go out drinking and having sex with each other, and I can't do it these days because they won't look at me in the bars, and I drink and I just can't...
So Nick Revell, speaking as a whistle when, gained that extra point, and at the end of that round, he's in a very strong second position behind Gyles Brandreth. And Gyles, it's your turn to begin. And the subject now is hardy perennials, starting now.
For many people, the hardiest of hardy perennials is Tess of the d'Urbervilles, but I'm not interested in the works of the great Thomas. For me, Oliver Hardy is the one who has the perennial charm. As a child, I used to get the annuals in which he featured with his companion Stan Laurel. And those hardy perennials were books that came in one's Christmas stocking every year and made one feel young and gay in the traditional old-fashioned sense of the word. You're quite right, there's a touch of Tommy Two-Ways about me, but I'm suppressing it. Because I am taking flower from a hardy perennial in my garden. It's a kind of version of St. John's wort that makes sure that because I'm married, I have the butch side in the ascendant. Hardy perennials come into their own in all sorts of different ways. You can think of, if you would, the great Hardy who was at Nelson's side at the unfortunate Battle of Trafalgar. If only he had...
Nick, challenge.
Well, deviation. I don't think that the Battle of Trafalgar was unfortunate. We spanked the French. That's always a very good thing.
For Nelson, it was a rough day.
Well, true.
It was a tough call. It was unfortunate for him. You see, and I was talking about Hardy and
yes.
Nelson and Kiss Me, and it was all linked to being Tommy Two-Ways, and maybe if he had access to the same hardy perennials that I've got in my garden, it might have worked out differently.
I know.
That was the background to it, but I'm quite happy to concede the point because the news has just begun.
So, Nick Revell, 8 seconds for you. Hardy perennials, starting now.
The hardy perennial is, of course, a plant which is a metaphor which can be applied to many things, such as jokes. Here is a twist on an old...
So, Nick Revell was then speaking as a whistle when, gained that extra point. And he was in second place. He's still in second place. He's moving up on a leader, Gyles Brandreth. I'm giving you all these facts because we're going into the last round, alas. And Nick Revell, it's your turn to begin. The subject is webcams. Very modern subject, but talk on it if you can. 60 seconds, starting now.
Webcams is what you might think a spider makes its home videos on, but no, it's just another means of communicating with other people. You can stick it on the side of your computer screen and...
Gyles Brandreth challenge.
Repetition of computer.
Yes. 2 computers, I'm afraid.
Well, I've got 2 computers.
Give him a bonus point for that remark. Gyles has got a correct challenge. A point to him. He takes over the subject. 47 seconds, Gyles. Webcams starting now.
Until very recently, the only excitement in my domestic life was when I went into the kitchen, opened the refrigerator door, the light went on, and I did my little routine. Now that my computer has attached to it a webcam, I am able actually to send my communications to people while pulling funny faces. This does indeed amuse some people, but also it has brought the police around. I'm not sure quite why, but the constable came to see me and said, what you are doing in your webcam is not considered polite in our society nowadays. You are supposed to be simply using the webcam to communicate. Instead, you seem to be doing...
Nick, you challenge.
To communicate? Sending communications.
No, you had two webcams, which were singular, and the subject is webcams.
Oh, well, I wasn't challenging on that.
I'm trying to help you, Nick.
I just... Oh, yes, that was it. That was it. Yes.
I just wanted to have an exciting finish. 11 seconds, Nick, on webcams starting now.
And if you're not communicating with email and webcams, you can text people and say, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just on the computer and the webcam.
Maria, challenge.
Sorry, there was another computer. You may have three now.
No. Had a computer before, and before when he was speaking. So, Maria, you cleverly got him with 2 seconds to go on webcams starting now.
I can be appearing on a webcam somewhere near you.
Can I also point out to Nick that if you were texting somebody, you wouldn't be saying, what are you doing? You would be saying, what do you...
Let me give you the final situation. Fred MacAulay, who has achieved such wonders in the show in the past, but this wasn't one of his greatest days. But it's always lovely to have him, and we always enjoy his humour and his remarks. But he did finish just behind Maria McErlane, who was in third place, a point or two behind Nick Revell. But he was still 4 points behind Gyles Brandreth. So say, Gyles, once again, you are our winner. Thank you. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 delightful players of the game. Sitting on my left was Fred MacAulay and Maria McErlane, and sitting on my right was Gyles Brandreth and Nick Revell, and sitting beside me was Janet Staplehurst, helping with the score. We thank her. We thank our producer, Chris Neal. We are indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this game, and we do thank this lovely audience here at the Bonner Hall in the University of Dundee, who have been such a warm, passionate audience and given us such fun, and we hope you've had even more fun. So from our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, from the team, goodbye. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Yes. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it is my pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country but throughout the world, but also to welcome to the programme this week 4 of the most popular and entertaining exponents of this game, who once again are going to display their verbal wit and intellectual dexterity as they try to speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. And they are, sitting on my right, Paul Merton and Kit Hesketh-Harvey, and sitting on my left, Liza Tarbuck and Charles Collingwood. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Susie Best, and she's going to help me keep the score, and she'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds are up. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from the City Varieties, which is a wonderful period music hall in great condition in the centre of that... And we have an audience in great condition as well, who come from the lovely city of Leeds in the centre of that great God's own county of Yorkshire. And to start the show this week, we're going to ask Charles Collingwood. So, Charles, the subject in front of me is 4-poster beds. Will you talk on that subject for 60 seconds, if you can, starting now?
I love lying in a 4-poster bed with almost anyone I can find, quite frankly. But mostly my wife, Judy Bennett, who, of course, you know as plays Schuler Archer. I like to take her away to a hotel which costs a fortune and provide her with the most beautiful 4-poster bed. When we wake up in the morning, room service is brought to our room. Room service and room?
No, it's...
Can you spot the connecting word?
And that was repetition. So, Paul, you were the first to challenge. You have a point for a correct challenge. You take over the subject of 4-poster beds. 38 seconds starting now.
There is something incredibly romantic about a 4-poster bed. I suppose it's the curtains or the drapes that you can pull across and create a tiny little island where all the outside world disappears and you have this wonderful love nest. When I share a 4-poster bed with Charles Collingwood, we often have room service.
Charles Collingwood challenge.
Well, he wasn't very good. I didn't want him to bring this up, and it is deviation here in Leeds for him to bring this up.
Charles, you can say anything you like in this show, provided it's not libelous. And And I don't think that is. But yours was a delightful interruption. So
And
we give
it's a
you a
deviation.
bonus point for that. No, but it wasn't deviation within the rules of just a minute.
Sorry.
So, Paul, you get a point for being interrupted. You keep the subject of 4-poster beds. 21 seconds starting now.
You often see them in films about Henry VIII, I suppose, being king. He had the biggest 4-poster bed in the land, made out of mighty oaks, carved from that good English wood into a form that he could sleep his majestic frame and command all the citizens of the country, bring me another wife, I have the 4-poster bed.
In this game, whoever is speaking as the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion was Paul Merton. Will you take the next round? Kit Hesketh-Harvey, A Call of Nature. This could be difficult, couldn't it? I hope that you'll keep within the bounds of respectability as you talk on that subject, starting now.
Lying in my 4-poster bed, quite frequently I have to answer a call of nature, as did the narrator of Wuthering Heights, that majestic Yorkshire novel, when he woke up and saw this woman outside going, "Heathcliff, it's me, Cathy, and I'm coming home." She was as immemorial as the rocks from which she sprang. Another call of nature is...
I think I know what it is.
Well, it's repetition of...
No, that's wrong. No, you have to understand that chimp is an inflected language, and is quite different from because it means something quite other in chimp.
There was a definite repetition of
Yeah, there was. You heard it, didn't you?
I did it, yes.
In fact,
We
it woke
went
you
on.
up, didn't it?
Oh, shut up, Paul. Unfair. Right, I'm so fair. He's got a correct challenge. He has 39 seconds. A Call of Nature starting now.
The owl, a beautiful bird, a nocturnal creature, will often call to its mate across the countryside, to wit and more. It emanates from its beautiful beak, its golden throat, the larynx.
Charles Collingwood, you challenge first.
He did hesitate.
Yes, he
As
did
he
hesitate.
broke into laughter.
You have a point for that, of course, and you have the subject of A Call of Nature. 30 seconds starting now.
I have to tell you that it's quite personal, this, because sitting here, I could do with just popping out the back for about 3 minutes, because I feel the call of nature here. But because I'm an old pro, I will soldier on and hold whatever it is I'd like to give forth inside me until the end of this great show, at which point I will depart and relieve myself of an enormous quantity.
Paul, challenge.
Doesn't this come under the category of more information than we need?
Isn't that what this show is?
No, not more information than we need, more information. But, so what is your challenge within the rules of just a minute?
I don't know if I've got one, but
No.
I felt the flow had to stop.
And I think you stopped it, and so we give you a bonus point because the audience enjoyed your interruption, but Charles was interrupted. What a pity. Try and get off the flow at the moment if you can, Charles, with 5 seconds on A Call of Nature starting now.
Sometimes I sit in my garden with the windows open, and I look at...
Lisa, you challenged.
I did challenge because there was a slight hesitation.
There was a
between windows
hesitation,
and...
my darling. Right. Very clever. You've got him with 1 second to go on A Call of Nature starting now.
Dogs barking.
Well, had Charles challenged you?
I heard the...
I know.
Like she heard of mine.
That's right. No, it was not...
hesitation.
Of course not. You ungallant
I will never
player.
think of Brian in the same way, you know.
Very few women ever do.
Another point to you, Lisa, and half a second on A Call of Nature starting now.
My dog, Welsh Will.
So Lisa Tarbuck, speaking as the whistle went and the others in the round, she is now equal with Charles Collingwood, and Paul Merton's just ahead, and Kit Hesketh-Harvey is trailing a little. So, Paul, it's actually your turn to begin. Paul, the subject is growing a moustache. You have grown one on occasions, I believe, but tell us something about the subject in this game starting now.
Well, it takes a great deal of talent, and you have to put the hours in. It's no good just waking up one morning thinking I will grow a moustache by tomorrow. It just won't happen. You have to nurture your upper lip with a mixture of compost, potato peelings, and floor polish. Plus, if you can get hold of it from some of the Chinese shops specialised in the golden throat of an owl, which you rip from the bird and rub across the top part of your face just underneath your nose. nose, and before you know where you are, hairs begin to sprout left, right and centre, making up the moustache. There have been many different types of moustaches over the years. Look at Adolf Hitler. He stole his from Charlie Chaplin, and he didn't do him any harm, did it? I'm sorry.
You dried yourself up, didn't you? Such bizarre deviation. It's absolutely wonderful.
Just the idea of praising Hitler seemed to be a bit odd.
And Kit's buzzer came on first. Kit, there are 20 seconds on growing a moustache, starting now.
Florence Nightingale's sister had a lavish cavalry job, which when a local portrait painter was going to render her in oils, the whole county was agog to see what he would make of it. Strategically, he placed her under a cedar tree so that the shadow thereof passed across her upper lip and made her look slightly less like Lord Kitchener, which otherwise she would have done. But it was considered rather attractive.
Yes, so with some more bizarre thoughts there, but this time from Kit. Kit was speaking of this when he's moved on. In fact, Charles Collingwood, Kit Hesketh-Harvey and Liza Tarbuck are all equal in second place behind Paul Merton. And Charles, your turn to begin. The subject, oh, how apt for the time of year in which we are recording this, but also for this particular theatre, the City Varieties, pantomime. Yes. And Charles, you start. 60 seconds starting now.
Having a wonderful time. There's no concealing that you're feeling sublime. The world's our oyster and we haven't a care. There must be champagne in the air. 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's throw a party today. Forget your head and let your heart have its way. For Jack's a dull boy with all work and no play. So just relax and we'll feel fine. Enjoying a marvellous evening. Now, I think that's really tatty.
So, Kit, you challenge.
Deviation from the home key, but it seems so childish. I'm sorry.
As you have perfect pitch, I know you're right. So, but what I will do is, Charles, because it was a one-off, having a whole ditty
Please,
like that,
God, it was a one-off.
You will get you will have a bonus point for your little ditty, which they all
Well, I'm looking
loved.
for work, Nicholas, frankly. And I think on the strength of that, I shan't be getting any. Never mind.
So, Kit, a correct challenge. 37 seconds on pantomime starting now.
I notice here in the City Varieties leads they're giving Robin Hood and the Babes in the Wood a double whammy, which gives rise to all sorts of possibilities. You get Mother Goose gets Aladdin, or the Sleeping Beanstalk, possibly even Puss in Dick, but maybe that is too strong for these lovely people. I hate pantomime. I'm with a little boy who said every year at Christmas time I'm taken to the pantomime. I think it's childish, but we go because Papa enjoys it so. It is the most grisly torture ever effected.
Oh, no, it isn't.
Well, a very clever interruption from Paul, so we give him a bonus point for that interruption because the audience enjoyed it so much. But, Kit, you had a correct challenge. You interrupted. So you keep the subject. 5 seconds on pantomime starting now.
I met my divine wife in pantomime at Brighton, the only time I've made an excursion into that ghastly art form, and the only...
Yes, we do have the impression, Kit, that you don't enjoy pantomime. But how could you have met your wife there if you never go to pantomime?
No, I was in it. That was very different. I wasn't
and you
very
hate
good.
it, and you've been
I was
in it.
dreadful. She was marvellous. I was dreadful.
You don't mind taking your crock of gold and...
going to the end of the rainbow
Right.
20 long years ago in Brighton.
Lisa, your turn to begin. The subject is cooking a goose. Tell us something about cooking a goose starting now.
I like to cook a fresh goose. That way you can leave the head on so that you've got something to gird under your arms as you're plucking the feathers from the said bird's body. It's also good because you can cut the head off the goose later and send it.
Charles challenge.
2 heads.
2 heads.
Did I?
Yes.
I'd love to know where it's going to be sent, though.
You'll have to let me win it back then.
Right. A 2-headed goose. Charles, you got in first. 48 seconds. Cooking a goose starting now.
I get hold of this large goose which has already been plucked, and I put cream all over the top, and bacon, and butter, and I stuff its tummy full of onions. And then, with the oven preheated, I put this enormous bird into my vast double-so cooker. And there it stays for hours and a long time longer. And it becomes the crispiest, crunchiest, moistiest goose you've ever tasted.
Well, I'm so moistiest.
Moistiest, yeah.
No, I will give him the
Will
benefit of the doubt on this one. So, Charles, you have the benefit of the doubt. You keep the subject cooking a goose, and 14 seconds starting now.
14 seconds left before I open the door and remove this gorgeous, moist bird.
Liza, challenge.
He said big bird before, and
You
he's
had a
just said
bird,
bird
yes.
again.
You mentioned the bird before.
Two birds are...
You were
Better than one.
Yeah. It's a goose sandwich.
You were putting your bird in the oven or pulling it out of the oven. I've forgotten which. And it's, cooking a goose, 6 seconds are available starting now.
You're going to need a very heavy-bottomed tin to get this bird in the oven.
Right, so Lisa was then speaking as the whistle went, and she's moved forward, and she's equal to Kit Hesketh-Harvey, third place, just behind Charles Collingwood, and our leader is still Paul Merton, who also begins the next round. Paul, the subject now is spoons. Tell us something about spoons in just a minute, starting now.
Playing the spoons was an old Victorian trick that people used to get up to when they couldn't afford pianos or other musical instruments. They would get hold of the cutlery drawer, grab the spoons, and Grandad would start knocking out favourite rhythms of the day, the relief of Mafeking, and all kinds of things like that had their own tunes. And people used to gather around the old spoon and say, "Go on then, grandfather, play it as you've never before." And he did! What a magnificent tune he would get out of these pieces of cutlery.
Charles, challenge.
Repetition of tune.
Yeah, and cutlery. Right, well done.
I can't go the whole list, can I?
Spoons is with you, Charles. 24 seconds starting now.
When you prepared the goose and it's on the table, you lay the places for your guests. Knives on the outside, working inwards to the spoon with its fork alongside. Or, if you like...
Kit has his
I never fork alongside the spoon.
No,
I'm so sorry. Charles, I'm not coming to you for Christmas.
I didn't
Maybe in your
hesitate or
house.
deviate, did I?
You deviated from
No,
English
no, not in
manners,
our
and this
house.
is
We
Radio 4.
We can have our spoons where we like in our house, Kit.
Clearly you
Yeah,
have.
but you did establish that this... You did establish this was a conventional way. You didn't say, in our house, we have the spoons beside the
He's being
forks.
so hard on me now.
No,
But
no,
are
no.
you going to let him have that?
Yes, I've been kind to you and generous to you on the last
Don't you
one.
point at me.
So I'm giving the benefit of the doubt to Kit on this one. So, Kit, you have spoons, and you have 7 seconds starting now.
The roseate spoonbill, a beautiful bird, or Ajaya Ajaja.
Lisa, challenge.
Deviation, surely.
Yes.
No, it is the Latin name for spoonbill. Ajaya Ajaja.
3 seconds on spoons starting now.
My cutlery drawer is an amazing array of different sized spoons.
And so, at the end of that round, Lisa was speaking as the whistle went. She has moved forward with alacrity, and she's now beside Kit Hesketh-Harvey in third place, but only 1 point behind Charles Collingwood, and they're 2 or 3 points behind our leader, Paul Merton. And, Kit, it's also your turn to begin again. And the subject now is a dark horse. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
My favourite dark horse was Copenhagen, the sturdy mount ridden by Arthur Wellesley, Duke of Wellington at Waterloo, named after the Danish capital, which was lucky. If it had been another town, he could have been called Knackersoff or even Ars, both of which are charming places in that fair country. But no, he returned to England to a hero's welcome, was cast in bronze and painted in oils.
Paul, challenge.
That's not a hero's welcome if you're cast in bronze. I mean, what would they have done to him if they didn't like him?
So what's your challenge when the
Deviation, that's not a hero's welcome, being cast in bronze.
It is, actually. I mean, if you're a
Nicholas has been
hero...
cast in bronze
Have you
many
been cast
times.
in bronze,
Yeah.
Nicholas?
I've just
You can
had a
buy him in
letter,
Ann
actually.
Summers. Yeah.
They want... I've actually had a request quite recently to have a bronze made of my head.
Really?
Yes.
And are you wearing it tonight?
So, Kit, I disagree with the challenge. You still have a dark horse starting now.
He was pensioned off and lived to the ripe old age of 27 at Stratfield Say. A dark horse can also mean somebody who comes from behind, not in a Nicholas Parson sense, but who wins...
Charles.
Hesitation of the worst sort. You blanched. I mean, quite rightly, your reaction was appalling.
He paled beneath his bronze, didn't
And
he?
Kit could no longer continue to
I'm
talk.
so sorry.
Absolutely.
It's slanderous.
The image was too disturbing. I'm sorry to
And tell us something now about a dark horse in 27 seconds, starting now.
When I go horse racing, I love to see those dark horses. I walk round the paddock feeling I'm going to put my shirt on that dark horse, as I just know that when he gets to the last 200 furlongs, it's going to be mine.
200 furlongs?
I don't think any race
It's a
runs
dead
as long
horse.
as 200.
How little you know about this dark horse, I'm telling you. Stamina, eh?
No, even that fellow who took the message to
Keep going.
Ghent to I.
And created the Olympic Games,
Oh,
you know,
him.
the marathon.
Yes.
The one who ran from Marathon to bring the news.
Not 200 furlongs.
And it wasn't 200 furlongs, I can assure you.
Nor was
Right.
he a horse, actually.
Paul, a correct challenge. 14 seconds, a dark horse starting now.
A dark horse has been suggested before is somebody who maybe is a rank outsider or you're not sure about, who suddenly comes through.
Charles, challenge. Two suddenlies, I'm afraid. So, Charles, you're listening well, and you've got the subject back. And you've 6 seconds on a dark horse starting now.
I do feel that when you're introduced to someone who is told to be a dark horse, you should be slightly careful, because there may be...
So Charles Collingwood speaking as the whistle went, gained an extra point. He's moving forward. He's now in second place, 2 behind Paul Merton, and only 1 ahead of Kit Hesketh-Harvey and Liza Tarbuck. And Lisa, your turn to begin. The subject now is the classifieds. Can you tell us something about that unusual subject in this game, starting now?
Turn to the back pages of any newspaper anywhere and you will find the classifieds. If you're after a handyman, if you want an extra wide-fitting shoe, you want to share a flat in Kingston...
Charles, challenge.
2 once.
Yes, I'm afraid so.
I'm rubbish at this, aren't
You're
I?
not.
No, you're divine.
But that was my sympathy line.
Eh?
It's still a sympathy line.
It had a lovely incantation.
Charles, 49 seconds. Tell us something about the classifieds, starting now.
When I look at the back of a newspaper and I see that list of advertisements for jobs that I could so easily do, but I choose to be an actor instead, I think, where might I have...
Who's challenged? Lisa, challenge.
I just fancied it.
What now?
Deviation.
Oh, sorry. What?
I don't know. No, that was rubbish.
Bitterness, I think.
He said, see all the jobs he thought he could do. I don't think he could do all the jobs that are in the classifieds.
No.
No.
I look at the list and see all the jobs I could do.
No, I can give the benefit of the doubt to Lisa on that one. Classifieds, back with you, Lisa, starting now.
Do you want a big sack of narcissi? Well, look in the classifieds. You're sure to find them. Hanging baskets, perhaps to let signs over houses that you require from Sutton to...
Paul challenge.
Hesitation.
That was a hesitation.
Yeah.
Tell us something about the classifieds, Paul, and you have 28 seconds starting now.
Well, it's an extraordinary world that is unveiled in the classifieds. You look at fridge, freezer, only used once. And you wonder to yourself what domestic argument has occurred over this particular piece of machinery, that it should only be operated on the only...
Charles Callan.
There were 2 onlys.
Yes.
In the middle of the second one. That might become only.
Listen, you didn't like the way I spoke earlier, darling.
No. Well, he's coming in, darling, now. You obviously won that double bed with him. Right, the 11 seconds, Charles, the classifieds, starting now.
Classifieds have to be looked with great care as you scorn...
Paul challenge.
Deviation. Classifieds have to be looked with great care. That's just nonsense.
There might have been an ad coming up.
Yes. When he hasn't got a script in his hand, it doesn't make any sense at all. It's just nonsense.
Paul...
do you mind if I just have one of my tablets?
I'm just going to show, Charles, how fair I am in this situation, because I think colloquially people have been known to say you look with great care, and so I don't think it was sufficient deviation.
Yes, but if he had said those words, I wouldn't have challenged.
Do you know, if you'd refereed England-Australia in the World Cup, we'd have stuffed Australia. He's so kind, isn't he?
Yes.
Oh, I'm ready with you.
Well, you were getting so temperamental a moment ago. Yes, he's changed his tune, right. Giving you the benefit of the doubt, Charles. 7 seconds, the classified, starting now.
When I look...
And Kit's challenge.
Hesitation?
Yeah, hesitation. He gets tense if you don't like the decision. You're generous to him when he gets one, and then he just dries up. Oh, dear, these archers. Right.
can't hang about, can you?
Kit, you've got 5 seconds on the classified, starting now.
Elderly incontinent gentleman seeks aardvark for erotic adventure. Apply Nicholas Parsons.
What I have to put up with in this game, but it's all grist to the mill, isn't it? Right, what's the situation? Because we're going to move into the last round, I'm afraid. Oh, yes, but we've enjoyed as much as you, so that's great. Oh, very interesting. Charles Collingwood, with a little bit of panache, has moved forward. He's equal in the lead with Paul Merton, but only 2 points behind is Kit Hesketh-Harvey. Ooh. And only 3 points behind is Liza Tarbuck. It's anybody's contest if you're interested in the points. You're more interested in the humour, aren't you? Yeah. Good, that's what we like. A grand finale. Oh, sorry, that is a subject, actually. I don't even realise. It was right in front of me. So, Paul, it's actually your turn to begin. And the subject is a grand finale. 60 seconds, starting now.
As we sit here in this magnificent musical built in the 19th century, we can think back to the wonderful shows that finished here on a grand finale. Who can forget the dear old Queen, Danny LaRue, as he used to wander out and regale the audience with his marvellous jokes and repartee and songs and witty costumes. It was magnificent. And then the acrobats would come out for the grand finale and they would toss each other across the stage, and it was a magnificent sight.
Kit's a challenge.
Too magnificent in the nick of time, I think.
There was...
Was there?
Yeah.
Yes, there was another magnificent earlier on, Sir Paul. So, Kit, a correct challenge. You have a grand finale. You have 32 seconds starting now.
My favourite grand finale is the final movement of Sibelius's majestic symphony.
Challenge. Right.
Well, he's completely cracked up.
I know.
It's very funny if you listen to it carefully.
Oh, can he have a go then?
Right. You're the only person in the show who cracks himself up.
I'm sorry.
It's amazing.
Nobody
Charles,
else laughs.
You've got him at 27 seconds on a grand finale, starting now.
With 27 seconds left, I feel a grand finale building up in this beautiful theatre. The audience are on tenterhooks as they're waiting for that whistle to be blown, and for Charles Collingwood they hope to score a final extra point. But will it happen? We don't know.
Paul, challenge.
I don't think it will happen. I just can't see it happening that way.
Right. Well, within the rules of just a minute, you get a bonus point for that remark, as the audience loved
snatch
it.
victory from
but
jaws of defeat. Oh,
but
no.
on the other hand, he wasn't deviating within the rules of just a minute. So, 10 seconds still with you on a grand finale, Charles, starting now.
The atmosphere now in this theatre, you could...
Kit challenge.
Repetition of atmosphere.
Well, you see, he ruined it for me, Paul. He ruined it. I could... You don't know how temperamental I can get, Mr. Merton. Just because you hear me being a butch farmer on the radio, I can scream, you know.
It was Kit Hesketh-Harvey.
I don't care. Either of those two gentlemen over there. I'm sick of this game now. Come on, darling. Let's go home, Miss Tarbuck.
Looks really nice to me.
When you think what I've been through this last few weeks...
You sound as if you'd changed your sexual proclivities all of a sudden.
Sorry, darling. I'm so sorry.
Kit, you had a correct challenge. You have 8 seconds on a grand finale starting now.
Just think of it, Charles Collingwood on his dark horse, his lush moustache streaming in the breeze, clutching his goose.
Paul, challenge.
Deviation. He does not have a lush moustache.
I was just thinking of it. I just said just think of it. I wasn't applying to literal
this is
fact.
true. You were saying just think of it, weren't you? Right, so what do I do?
Give it to me, love.
No, I...
This deviation, he has no moustache.
He has no moustache.
I was just thinking of it. I was thinking of it. I'd like to picture him with moustache.
No, he hasn't got a lush moustache. Right, a benefit of the doubt to you, Paul, on this occasion. 3 seconds, a grand finale starting now.
And so the balls are in the air as the jugglers strike.
Well, that last flourish of Paul Merton's really did give us a grand finale to this particular edition of Just a Minute. And they're all so close with the points. But if you're interested, I will tell you. Liza Tarbuck only just finished in 4th place, but she was only 2 points behind Kit Hesketh-Harvey. He was only 1 point behind Charles Collingwood. And he was only 2 points behind Paul Merton. But we do, because he has the most points, say, Paul, you're the winner this week. So, what does it remain for me to say? Just Thank you to these four intrepid players of the game, Paul Merton, Liza Tarbuck, Kit Hesketh-Harvey and Charles Collingwood. I also thank Susie Best, who's helped me keep the score and blown her whistle so delicately every time. I also thank our producer, director, that is Chris Neal. We are indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this game, and we are deeply indebted to this lovely Yorkshire audience who've come to the City Varieties in Leeds to cheer us on our way. We hope you've enjoyed it. We've enjoyed playing to you. From me, Nicholas Parsons, from our team, tune in the next time we play Just a Minute.